it's a very integrated concept. The Purpose Prize, we hope that people look at the winners of the Purpose Prize and can find somebody in those winners of the Purpose Prize that they can identify with.
Right.
So we have people who have, had great accomplishments in their previous careers. This year we'll talk about some of the examples, but this year we had a woman who was a famous mountaineering expedition leader.
Wow.
On the other hand, we had somebody who was a gardener, who came to this country with $20 in his pocket and a sixth-grade education, built a gardening business, and a few years ago launched a foundation to give college scholarships to needy Latino youth who couldn't afford to go to college otherwise. So the range is really vast.
And I'm sure some of them, like me, were suddenly confronted with aging issues with their parents, perhaps, and all of a sudden said, wait a minute, why doesn't this service exist? Well, I'll make one.
Right, exactly. They, the way that they got to these stages of life are fascinating, and there are some very common themes, and Kathy will illustrate one of them. Some of them, really were confronted with personal tragedy and confronted with sort of the issues of mortality, either somebody in their family or they themselves. Maybe they were diagnosed with cancer or something like that, and that made them feel that this is the time that they have to do something different.
Wow.
Others toiled in a job for years and years, maybe doing something good, like working in the foster care system, and they just saw the limitations of the system. And at a certain point, they felt that they had the wisdom and the knowledge, the experience, and the risk, and the ability to take the risk to break out of that and start something really new.
Now, that's what a wonderful definition of a person new to being older, a senior, who can take risks, who knows that something is lacking, and finds it in themselves to create, whether it's a business or a consulting business, or maybe it's hands-on care, to really find fulfillment, maybe for the first time in their life. I'm reminded of my Grandpa Burr, who said, Paul, you find a job that you love and you'll never go to work a day in your life. And you've seen these people.
Right, that's exactly what they say.
Yes.
I mean, they say, I feel guilty describing it as a job.
Exactly.
Because they love so much what they do. And, for many of them, they say, I'm working harder than I've ever worked before, and I'm loving it more than anything else that I've ever done.
Yeah. And I think it's good for the families, too. I mean, oftentimes the sons and daughters will go, what's Mom up to now? Well, Mom's up to some very good things that you can be truly proud of. I like to see that within families where just about the time the kids say when they're mid-30s into their 40s, we've got this albatross called Mom or Dad. It's like, no, Mom and Dad are alive and vital and they've raised you, and now they're going to help others. It's wonderful. It's just such a... Tell me how Civic Ventures began. Mark Friedman was the chairman.
The founder was Mark Friedman. He was somebody who had been doing work on mentoring and studying mentoring programs around the country. This was about 10 years ago, and he discovered that, in fact, some of the most effective mentors and mentoring programs were ones that were using people who were retired. And people for whom the expectation was, your time is over, you should be, stepping aside. But these were, in fact, the most effective mentors of young kids. And it dawned on him that if these people could be such great mentors and advance the learning and the social skills of the kids that they were working with, what about the millions and millions of other people who were never asked to do something?
Wow. And since isolation is such a big element in many seniors' lives, this is a chance to break free of that, to get out there and actually put what you know on the line.
One of our winners from this year runs a program, actually, in Fargo, North Dakota, of all places, which, this might come as a surprise to you, it did to me. There are, I believe, 8,000 resettled refugees from Africa, Iraq, and all parts of the world that were torn by conflict, who were given refugee status in the United States and resettled there in this place where nobody was familiar with their culture. They were completely out of their culture. And she created a program called Giving and Learning that actually uses older adults as mentors for these new Americans to help them to learn English, to get driver's license, to pass the exam for nursing assistants. And she's literally organized, I think, probably close to 800 older adults in Fargo, North Carolina, to be one-on-one mentors to these new Americans. And what she said is, you just have to ask. These are people who haven't been asked. You just have to ask.
That is, of course that's true. And we're better than the American Midwest. You know, you're talking to an Iowa boy, so I get that. There's that wonderful extension of their humanity that's really quite natural. And it's not a faith issue. These are core American beliefs. Everybody can buy into the system, and age shouldn't be a barrier. Now, you've amassed some incredible statistics about the common threads of Encore Careers. Can you share a bit of that research?
We did, yes. Just this past year, we did what was the first national study of the phenomena that we call Encore Careers. And what we found, really to our surprise, is that of the population we surveyed, which was people aged 45 to 70, I believe, that already somewhere between 7 and 9% of that population has an Encore career. That is, they've switched from something that they were doing before to a work that combines income and social impact in areas that we're considering to be the most high need: education, nonprofits, healthcare, and so forth.
Now, you guys had a really big event this past weekend, and I want to talk about that when Kathy joins us. But right now, it's time for a short break. So when we come back, we will continue our discussion of civic ventures, and we will meet a 2008 Purpose Prize Fellow. We'll be right back.
The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power wants to give you up to 7 free shade trees just for completing a workshop, either online or in your neighborhood. The Trees for a Green LA program offers LADWP residents over 40 different varieties of free shade trees. Trees benefit the environment, save energy, and add beauty. Get your trees by participating in an online workshop by logging on to ladwp.com/trees or call 1-800-GREEN-LA.
During a disaster, you and your neighbors become actual first responders to assist each other in your area. Law enforcement, paramedics, and firefighters may be unable to reach you for up to 72 hours. Ensure that you and your neighbors are prepared to assist each other. For more information, please contact the Department on Disability or the Emergency Management Department by calling the numbers on the screen or by dialing 311.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. Our topic today, Civic Ventures, an organization dedicated to involving seniors and their experiences in solving serious social problems. In the first part of our program, we spoke with Jim Emmerman, director of the Purpose Prize. And joining us now is one of the 2008 Purpose Prize Fellows, Kathy Eldon. Kathy, welcome to our show. I'm so excited that you're here because I want to hear what went into your Encore career and coming to the attention of Civic Ventures and the Purpose Prize.
I felt very honored to have been brought to their attention. That was fantastic.
What happened?
Well, it's, okay. First career, I was a journalist and a writer and a teacher in England and Africa, although I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I think you're from Iowa as well.
We share that Iowa base.
Absolutely. But something happened in my life that was really the tragedy that none of us want to think about, that happens to many people. But my son, who was a photojournalist working in Somalia in 1993, was stoned to death by a mob together with 3 other journalists.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And you may remember that story.
Oh, indeed I do.
Yeah,
Yes.
It was in the LA Times, and they called him, in the LA Times, they called him a bright light that shone for a very short time.
Oh, my.
But as a journalist myself, I felt pretty guilty because I'd sort of maybe been a bad example to him about telling stories that were important. But, of course, he followed his own path and was killed at the age of 22. So at that point, you think, oh, you know, what are you going to do? How do you transform something that is truly unbearable into something that has a life force of its own?
How do you make lemonade?
How do you make lemonade?
Yes, I know
Really,
that. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, most of your viewers know that.
Yes.
And I think initially I got very involved in issues about journalism and really trying to make people understand that there was somebody between them and the newspaper, you know, that somebody was taking down the story or
Right.
holding the camera. And I did that for a number of years, and I made documentaries about a variety of things. And then I decided I really wanted to do more. And 10 years ago, when I was 52, I guess it's the only show where you can admit how old you are.
We brag about it here.
Exactly. I know. I'm so proud. I decided to start a foundation. And the foundation I called Creative Visions Foundation, because I believe in my heart that if we create a vision for something and put up the scaffolding and put in the bricks, you know, you can really make something happen.
Yes, indeed.
But the whole point of it was to celebrate people like my son, Dan Eldon, who use their creative spark to do something that will affect the world in a positive way. And over the years, we've focused the foundation on people who use arts and media. So you'd be a creative activist.
In fact, I think that defines me.
Completely.
Much to the exasperation of the powers that be in the entertainment business. But I want to make sure we highlight this. CreativeVisionsFoundation.org, I assume.
Correct.
Okay, and I'll remind you again, pencil and paper, you want to take this stuff down. So when you started it, did you know what you were getting into?
Boy, I hadn't had a clue. 'Cause in the beginning, we just had a little bit of money to give away, maybe $5,000, $6,000 a year, and we gave it to young filmmakers. And you remember Born into Brothels, that wonderful film?
Yes, sure.
We gave a bit of money to them, Genghis Blues. One went on to win an Oscar, one went on to be nominated for an Oscar. And then we realized that we could really help a little bit more by providing what they call fiscal sponsorship, which is to help people raise money, use your 501(c)(3) status, charitable status.
Right.
So we did that. And then we realized that if we could really help nurture these projects and ideas and help give them form and focus, that they could go on from being a creative vision to being a tremendously exciting reality.
That's good. And there's a market for this. I mean, with all these film festivals, I have myself attended children's international film festivals, and their work product is astonishing. And all of them mentored, I might add, by an interested senior with experience. So how did the core group grow organically? I mean, once you started, then sort of one person comes and then the next person. How did that process go?
Never advertised, you know.
Well, that's good.
It's just people turn up on our doorstep. One of my interns, who was a 24-year-old girl, wanted to work with illiterate Indian women to help them tell their stories. And so we named this thing Video Volunteers. She was going to go out with a video camera and volunteer in India. Now, 5 years later, it is the largest producer of community videos in India. I mean, hundreds of community video workers. And she's been mentored. Our chairman of the board of that is probably 79 years old, and she's our chair as well. She's one of the Ava Haller, one of the cleverest people I know.
Right. I love hearing these things. But for you personally, you had a career in journalism. What feels different about this part of your life?
Everything.
Yeah.
I have never been more fulfilled or excited every morning. This guy gets up at 3:15 in the morning. I get up at 5:30 and feel guilty.
Wow.
But every day I wake up thinking, wow, you know, who am I going to meet? What am I going to do? It's an adventure. I lived in Africa. It's a safari. It's a way of life.
Yes.
And I think that for people watching, everybody can become a creative activist at any age. You know, you just think, look around you, what needs to be done? And then rally troops around you, maybe other caregivers that you need to gather together a critical mass, which may be even two people.
Building an army.
Exactly.
That's part of what it is. Now, speaking of an army, Jim, you've got to tell us about this gathering you just recently held where several score of people just like Kathy were under one roof.
Right. We just concluded a 3-day event that was the 2008 Purpose Prize Awards and the first ever Encore Careers Summit. Our idea there was, in the past we've brought together the Purpose Prize Fellows, usually 60 to 70 people a year, who are the top contenders each year for the Purpose Prize, and we celebrate and honor them, and we work to develop programs that will help them develop their creative spark and very much network with each other and learn about what each other is doing. But for the first time this year, we decided that we wanted to bring another group of people, two other groups of people really, people who were in Encore careers who weren't necessarily social innovators. They were people who were seeking or had found satisfaction doing some work after their primary career that really addressed a problem that they cared very much about. And they're a fascinating group of people.
Oh, of course.
So we had probably another 75 people or 100 people who fell into that category. And then another 100 or so who represent organizations that can help us make the idea of Encore Careers a social reality. So foundations that can invest in it. People from nonprofit organizations who can hire people for their Encore Careers.
Right.
People in communities that are trying to find ways to bring the communities together to make them more Encore Career friendly. People from higher education, community colleges and four-year institutions that are thinking about how they can change their training programs so that somebody who has no background in, let's say, teaching can use their experience to quickly become somebody that's part of the educational system and secure a job for themselves at the same time as they're fulfilling maybe their dream of always
Very important, and this message goes right out to our audience. I know you're sitting there watching this, but this is you we're talking about. You were mentioning to me earlier today that we had people in their 90s who were participants in this. There were people in wheelchairs, there were people with walkers. So what?
That's right.
It's here. And it's here.
That's
and if you
absolutely
can
right.
engage yourself, you'll find that there's a world of need out there.
Yep.
I'm so pleased to report once again that the private sector and individual entrepreneurs are making the difference. This is not government work. This is one-on-one individuals saying, I'm going to tackle this. Now, I want to make sure people know how to get in contact with each of you. Kathy, let me start with you. We have creativevisionsfoundation.org.
Kathy Eldon at creativevisions.org.
Good. So you can email that one, text right away. And then the purposeprize.org, of course. But more importantly, you actually have a site called encore.org.
That's right. And there you'll find everything about the Encore Career, from what's happening in the public policy arena to make this happen, to practical advice for individuals who want to start to think about how they can use their talent in a way that will help solve a problem that they care about, at the same time hopefully get them a job where they can actually be paid to do it.
It's fantastic that you've created this gateway and that you walked through it, Kathy. Unfortunately, our time is up for today's edition of Aging in LA. Thanks so much to our guests from Civic Ventures, Jim Emmerman, Director of the Purpose Prize, and Kathy Eldon, a 2008 Purpose Prize Fellow. Thank you both for joining us. Now, today, let's take a look at our senior stat shots. Once again, our facts come from the newly released LA County Seniors Count. And when we looked at statistics that gauged senior citizen interest towards productive activity in the areas of employment, civic activity, and recreation and leisure, here is what we found. First, recreation and leisure. 47% of seniors in LA County are interested in recreation. 42% are interested in entertainment. 25% like to take part in religious activities, and 36% are interested in educational activities. When it comes to civic engagement, 24% of seniors are interested in both volunteering and community involvement. And when looking at social activity for seniors, 29% of our older population has minor or serious problems with isolation. As far as employment is concerned, 13% would like to find a job, and 10% would be interested in job training or job placement. So it looks like our seniors of today really want to kick back and retire rather than go on working, but given today's economic climate, these numbers may change dramatically. And that's today's Senior Stat Shot. Now, you can get your own copy of this fact-filled survey. Remember, 16,000 people took part. Simply go online to www.ladcss.org, which is Los Angeles County Community and Senior Services. Click on LA County Seniors Count, and the full report will appear. Or, if you prefer, you can have a copy sent to you by calling area code 213-738-2065. That's 213-738-2065. The Los Angeles Department of Aging produces this program with CityView, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed on the many issues that face them in everyday life. And also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens. Now, we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and your ideas for future programs will be welcome. So give us a call. The number's right there on your screen, area 213-252-4088. That's area code 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas, and we look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView, Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Been thinking. You're not prepared for an earthquake. Take this antique vase your mom got you. If the big one hit, be a goner. Or this clay penguin you made in 3rd grade. History. By simply strapping loose furniture to the wall and putting putty under loose items, you can prevent serious injury and damage. Nothing is safe. Even poor Uncle Petey. Get the message? Be prepared.
LA CityView Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
and gentlemen, thank you to Councilmembers Reyes and Roosevelt, Mr. Labange. Hello, Ms. Hahn. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Corian, Mr. Parks behind us, Mr. Smith, Mr. Weston, and Mr. Zahn. Please join us. Thank you. Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 7th, 2010. The Council's returned from a 2-week recess, and welcome back to everybody. We are here in John Farrar Council Chambers, room 340 of City Hall. We meet here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and we are here live on Channel 35, and we welcome our viewers throughout the city's cable system. For your convenience, we're also available through the internet at lacity.org, and also through your telephone by calling the following number, 213-621-CITY. That's 213-621-CITY. And we archive all of our past council meetings online at lacity.org. We also have our agendas there. I know there was some trouble with the city's website this weekend, and we will find out what happened with that. But they're also posted in person here in the city buildings, and those are made available 72 hours in advance or 24 hours in advance for any of our special meeting items. I want to thank those members who are here on time. Council members Cardenas, Hahn, Huizar, Krikorian, Labange, Reyes, Rosendahl, and Wesson. I know we have 3 council members in the ERC meeting behind us. If the sergeants can assist us and make sure that they are here. Otherwise, we're still awaiting Mr. Alarcon and Mr. Smith. Ms. Perry is excused today, but otherwise we do expect 14 members. As soon as we have one more member, we will begin the meeting. Thank you for your patience, and we will begin shortly. We do expect Mr. Zine or Mr. Parks or Mr. Koretz momentarily. We also have a special guest who will be joining us today in council chambers. The president of the nation of El Salvador will be with us, his first trip to the United States, and we have 2 council members who will be presenting him shortly here in council chambers as well, and we're very honored to have his presence with us here today. Also, just a housekeeping note, there is a meeting this evening, our ongoing meetings, Ms. Perry and myself, for the ratepayer advocates. The Energy and Environment and the Rules and Elections Committee will be meeting in Mr. Rosendahl's district this evening I'll give you the address, at 11430 Woodbine Avenue in Mar Vista. We invite members of the public who are interested in the proposals for DWP accountability to join us this evening there. That's a public meeting following our first one in the San Fernando Valley. So please come to that meeting. We're listening to folks' input for a possible ballot proposition that would be on the March ballot for us to have that on the ballot. We're still awaiting one of the council members from the EERC. I know the Sergeant at Arms has gone to procure one of them, so thank you for your patience while we await one more council member. Thank you, Mr. Koretz. We can run through our agenda. First order of business, please.
That would be the roll call?
Yes, please.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business.
That is approval of the minutes.
All right. Mr. Reyes moves and Mr. Rosendahl seconds. Without objection, those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right. Mr. Labange moves and Mr. Krikorian seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well. If we can please run through the agenda, and colleagues, if I can turn your attention to the agenda. Oh, before that, I'm sorry, we have a salute to the flag. If I can ask everybody in council chambers to please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Labange, if you'd be kind enough to lead us.
On this regrouping, we also celebrate on the 4th of September this city's birthday, along with Mr. Huizar, the city's birthday on the 4th of September, but this day we pledge our allegiance. So, right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. If we can run through the agenda, please.
Before beginning the regular agenda, there is a request to continue item 3 one day to September 8th.
Okay, there's no objection to continuing just number 3?
Yes, just item 3.
To the 8th, without objection. Yeah, Mr. Reyes, number 3?
Councilman Parks?
Okay, hold on one second. So we'll continue 3 if there's no objection. Any other continuation?
No, that is the only item.
Okay. All right, we're on items 1 through 4, colleagues.
Mr. President, actually, just item 1 is the Greater Chinatown Business Improvement District notice for public hearing, and there is a card on that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call that special for the card from the public. Mr. Reyes, number 2, you wanted to call special?
Yeah, for Councilmember Parks.
Okay, for Mr. Parks. And number 4?
Item 4 is a building and safety lien notice for public hearing, and the department reports that may be received and filed in as much as the lien has been paid.
Okay. Without objection, let's go ahead and open the roll on receiving and filing 4. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Next items, please.
Items 5 through 8 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay. Any specials 5 through 8, colleagues? 6 for Mr. Cardenas? 5 for Mr. Rosendahl? No other specials. That leaves us 7 and 8 for a vote. If we can please take those together. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
All right, those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 9 through 27 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. And on item 24, I do believe there's a motion to receive and file that matter.
All right, if there's no objection to receive and file 24, so ordered. Do we have cards on any of these?
Yes, Mr. President. There are cards on items 9 and 11.
Okay. 11. We'll open and close the public hearings. Ms. Hahn, you also want to call 11 special? Okay. Any other specials? Yes, Mr. Weezar?
17 for a technical amendment, please.
Okay. Mr. Weezar, 17. Other specials, colleagues? If not, let's go ahead and take up the balance. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right. Those are approved. Mr. Labange, are you ready with the presentation, or are we still awaiting? Mr. Reyes?
Mr. Reyes will be leading us in that presentation, and we're not ready at this point.
Okay, just please give a word when we have that. We'll go now to our general public comment then. We may have to interrupt part of the general public comment today for that presentation, but we will return to it. During that, Daniel Wright is our first speaker. After that is Sean Murphy. Good morning, please. Go ahead. Sorry, we'll move that for you. I think that's for the presentation we expected. Okay. We can have one of the sergeants just take care of the rope. Or go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Honorable Council members. Daniel Wright of the Silverstein Law Firm. I'm speaking to you again about the Slauson Central project, that ill-fated project in the Council District 9, that poster child for eminent domain abuse, the project mired in litigation. Item 3 on today's agenda has just been continued until tomorrow. The Silverstein Law Firm has prevailed against the city or CRA in SEQA, Public Records Act, Brown Act, and city charter litigation, all triggered by the mishandling of this project. Tomorrow, you will be asked to approve the same action for the 4th time since January 2008, which is the sale of our client's former property at Slauson Central to an out-of-state developer, Regency Realty, and to one of Jan Perry's politically favored groups, Concerned Citizens of South Central. If that name sounds familiar, it's because the city recently sued Concerned Citizens for misuse of public funds, and your city attorney obtained a judgment of $5 million against against concerned citizens resulting from their failure to construct a development project that you funded. Yet tomorrow you will consider approving a multi-million-dollar public boondoggle to the same group who has a track record of failure. The shameful dealings of Jan Perry, concerned citizens, CRA staff, and others involved in this project cry out for investigation by the district attorney. And in our ongoing review of thousands of pages of documents obtained through our successful Records Act litigation, we have found contracting irregularities so disturbing that we have filed a complaint with the district attorney's fraud and corruption prosecution unit today. Let the record reflect that we have provided each council member with a copy of the official complaint for your review. Tomorrow you'll have the opportunity to do the right thing by stopping the CRA's waste of money, or at least sending it back to the CRA or to your own budget committee for a long, hard look. We urge you to look carefully at the letter.
Thank you, sir. Sean Murphy is our next, you can get the sergeant, or I'm sure. Well, you can just leave it there. We'll make sure we get it. Please come forward, Mr. Murphy. Good morning.
Good morning, City Council. I'm back from summer recess. I hope you had a good one, too. For those of you who are, I'm defending the councilman in CD7. Let him do his job. Stop bashing him. He's not doing anything wrong. He should not be under investigation. So what if he doesn't live in this district? He's a good guy, and he should finish his term, and all the councils should finish their terms. Also, I want to tell you about Co-Warren, Van Owen. The streets are under construction. It's taking too long for them to fix the streets. Something ought to be done about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Ankur Patel is our next speaker. He'll be followed by Arnold Sachs. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be back. I was looking at some of your websites to see what you guys did over the recess. I was on Councilman Smith's website, and his calendar was blank. There was nothing on there. Well, I would still like to know what is going on. Now, Councilman Parks, what you're doing on your time, what you're doing for the city. Councilman Krikorian's calendar was very up to date. It had dates of city neighborhood councils and meetings of the LAPD and different things that were going on. At least he's paying attention to what's going on, and at least it's accessible to the people. Councilman Parks had some animal rights stuff and Brazil on Sunday and entrepreneurial stuff. It was good. It was good. And so I was, obviously Councilman Reyes and Councilman Garcetti decided to grow facial hair. Now that's it looks good. Councilwoman Hahn was in the paper of the LA Times about what's going on the harbor. That was interesting as well. Now, what I've been doing, I've been going to neighborhood council meetings, a lot of them in my district, CD12. I've been going to CSUN and Pierce, the Associated Students, trying to see what's going on with, say, the MTA dispute between community colleges and their bus passes. Another thing that I was trying to do is look at the city charter, right? I'm starting to get into it. Division 5 is finance. And in that finance, there are 126 chapters on funds, right? Miscellaneous funds, revenue funds, 126 chapters. And there are over 150 individual funds that you guys keep money in. Everything from the street parking overnight special fund to the street furniture revenue fund. And I've been going to the controller's office, the city treasurers, and asking how much money is actually in any of these funds. I don't have that information. And LA Clean Sweep is going to try and bring the community together and find out what's actually going in our city.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that will be Duke Smith.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. Nice to have you back. But it would be really great if you came back with the attitude of starting your meetings at 10 o'clock. This 15 minutes every meeting that you fail to show up on time, that equates to a couple of days, maybe more, for a full year. You're really cheating the public. Mr. President, you mentioned that you have a ratepayers meeting, advocate meeting tonight. But again, I bring up the point that the DWP is a public utility. So what purpose would the ratepayer advocate serve if it's a public utility? You also should know that the state of California has a ratepayer advocate. Well, that ratepayer advocate doesn't advocate on behalf of the people in LA because it's a public utility, whereas Southern California Edison and PG&E and San Diego, they're all private utilities. That's who the ratepayer advocate hears from the public about. I'd like to, the gentleman before me asked about the council's business of what you were doing. I know that Mr. Reyes might have been busy. He's on the Gold Line Construction Authority. The problem with the Gold Line Construction Authority, they had a meeting, is the MTA board gave $640 million to the Blue Line Construction Authority for the Foothill extension. So what the hell do you think the Gold Line Construction Authority talked about? And who's paying the Gold Line Construction Authority? Workers. My bus pass went up $14. Why are you paying for people not to work when my bus pass goes up $14? And finally, one other thought that I came up with is that you waive the bed tax at the Ritz-Carlton to help them. Is the Ritz-Carlton still collecting that bed tax? Is that legal?
Thank you, sir. Duke Smith is our next speaker. After that will be Kim Neverman. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Welcome back. Headlines, August 2007, LA Times reported that LA City Council gave final approval Wednesday to a one-year moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries, presumably to establish a workable guideline. Headline, May 2008, the Daily News reports that LA is facing the largest budget deficit in history, with a reported over 6,000 employees making over $100,000 a year. And yet more than 2 years later, no progress has been made on either front. In fact, according to these documents published last week, we now are 81 people shy of 7,000 people making over $100,000 a year. You, dear servants, are making $178,000 plus. That, with 20 aides, you cannot do your jobs. You have the best resources of one of the best cities in the world, and with a $178,000 a year paycheck, you still continuously fail to do your job. You wrote an ordinance. You can't make a decision on a humanitarian issue like medicine. You can't make a decision to put a motion forth that cuts everyone's paycheck by 10% who's making over $100,000. What are you people doing for us? Absolutely nothing. Oh, Mr. Smith, I'm glad you got a smile. You should be embarrassed with what you make. Yeah, you should. Shame on each and every one of you. Allow the words of Benjamin Franklin to give you some guidelines today. In a free government, the rulers are the servants and the people are their superiors. For the former to return amongst the latter is not to degrade them, but to promote them. I hope each and every one of you get promoted at the next election. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kim Neverman is our next speaker. After that will be Lenny Fisher. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Council. It's kind of like time for you to put your money where your mouth is, and God only knows you make enough money. But anyway, all the while the ordinance for the medical marijuana thing was being considered, you all sit there and talk how you're in support of medical marijuana and you think it should be implemented and everything. It's kind of funny, on the day that the actual vote happened, 3 of you ran out of here faster than greased pigs in a lightning storm, scared to vote so that your names wouldn't be tarnished. The other ones that all talked a good story, they stabbed us in the back. We only had 2 or 3 that voted for of us, and one of them was an actual surprise. Thank you, Mr. Parks. You guys are a real piece of work. You just, no compassion or whatever. The only thing you care about is, some of you don't even know where you live. The other ones, you don't get here to work on time. What's the deal? Earn your $178,000.
Thank you. Lenny Fisher is our next speaker. After Mr. Fisher, we'll go to Van Nuys, and Donna Perriman will be our next speaker. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Lenny Fisher. Some of you may recognize me. I've been coming here for 4 years trying to get this medical cannabis regulation done. We supported you folks. We supported regulation. We wanted good, strong regulation. We got a piece of crap. And not only did we get a piece of crap, the city attorney is involved with the city clerk and has made many of the collectives ineligible to go on to the next stage. Okay? One of those collectives happens to be the collective that I'm a member at. And the reason they got was because there was a management change. I know this collective since the day it opened. Same people. It's time for the city council to go back to the table and figure out what went wrong. Mr. Falstanich, and I call him Falstanich because we backed him and we helped support getting him in office, and all he's done since he's been there is work against us. I challenge you, the council, to use the wisdom and the knowledge and earn that paycheck. I challenge you to see what's going on, find out what's happening here, fix it. You promised us safe access. Damn it, we want it.
Donna Perriman is our next speaker in Van Nuys. Good morning.
Hello, Mr. President. Anyway, I prefer you clean-shaven because you look like a crook right now. And I was not able to see the agenda online yesterday. You're violating the Brown Act by not making it available. And I'm surprised you didn't choose to take off for this time for Rosh Hashanah holiday instead of the other 2 weeks. You should be taking off now instead of then. I want the public to know the average city employee retiree salary is only $36,000, not very much. We need politician reform, not pension reform. Unions should tell the city council enough is enough. Politicians need good ethics, need to follow God's law, show leaders how to act, don't just spend. I'd like to spend that $586 million construction for one school, $40 billion for Prop R used for 3010. We better for jobs for 30 years, not 10. We need to repeal Prop R. We need to allow our money for we use all our money for construction and rail projects. We should use it for essential city services. Now is not the time to be using it for the rail. Let's save that money and put it into a lockbox and let it grow. Let it grow, and then it will be better. We should have the city council stop spending instead of going after the union, except DWP, which is off the hook. The ratepayer advocate is another figurehead for the city council and more bureaucracy. We spend billions for services to illegal aliens. That's money could be used to save libraries. Which politician has the guts to do what's right? Would any of you do that? Don't legalize marijuana. People can't use motor vehicles if you're high. You can't judge distances or judge speed. I don't see that done in medical marijuana, but it would be done if you legalize it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesus Lozano is our next speaker. After that will be Heather Boswell. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I want to first thank the City Council for letting us speak. I know this is what makes our country great. And I'm not here to bash. I appreciate everything you do. I understand that you guys have many issues, and we are very passionate about our issue. So I thank you all for your time, first of all, and for your dedication. And to be up there takes a lot of hard work. First of all, I'll give you a little background. I am a City of Los Angeles resident. I live at 1152 Irolo Street. I have been unemployed for about 15 months. I have a college degree. It's only an associate's degree, and I'm having a real hard time finding work. Now, I'm here in support of the medical cannabis, and you guys are trying to take away jobs besides making it hard on me to get my medicine. It's hard enough to find a job, and you're going to take away jobs. Just consider that. The people speaking here, we're not criminals. We're being portrayed as criminals. Our organizations are being portrayed as criminals. crime is going to go up if you do this. If you push our places out, crime is going to go up. The money that could be coming here in taxes is going to be headed to the prison gangs. You all know what I'm talking about. You're going to force us back into that criminal element. And I appreciate the time you guys give me. Just, you guys passed this a while ago. Just continue it. I understand you have a lot of other issues. This is very dear to us. This is a medical issue. Whether you agree with it or not, we are here in support. You see us all behind me. We are here for this. We're not here to bash you guys. You guys do a great job, and that's all I got to say. Just please support and just do what you said you were going to do a couple years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lozano. Heather Boswell is our next speaker. After Ms. Boswell will be Michael Backus. Good morning, ma'am.
Hello. On January 27th, I stood here and thanked you for 2 weeks of more great health. Little did I know that before I spoke, you had taken the vote on the ordinance, or I would have been outraged instead of thankful. I smoke and eat marijuana because I deal with manic depression. Manic depression due to an unfortunate childhood where I had very much torture in my life. And the only reason I'm able to stand today is because of medical marijuana. I take a sedative so strong that causes me so deep depression, I need a service animal to lick my tears so I don't get stuck for weeks in a depression. Marijuana is the only thing that allows me to speak freely and intelligently. A few minutes ago, we pledged to the flag and said liberty and justice for all. Please give those of us who need medicine justice. These clinics out here are helping me. I'm not a dispensary owner. I'm not a bud tender. I'm a patient. I'm also not someone who just goes to get weed to get high, because I don't get high, I get even, okay? And I really, really think that you should allow us our freedoms to have the medicine choice we want. Also, I am trying to go by the ordinance. I'm allowed to have one clinic, one. I choose the Cornerstone Research Collective. Why am I here? Because they're part of the 75% that you have not allowed to go forward. And so I'm here because I want one clinic, my clinic, Cornerstone. Let them stay.
Thank you. Michael Backus is our next speaker. After that is Bird Anderson. Good morning.
Welcome back. I really didn't expect to be here. I thought that we had passed an ordinance. I thought it was a workable ordinance. I thought that we'd come together and spent 3 years on it, and here we are. The City Attorney's Office is not serving this council. It is obvious that there is the spirit of the law, the intent of the law, and the letter of the law. Those who understand the law understand the importance of the spirit and the intent. Right now, the City Attorney's Office does not understand either the spirit or the intent of the law when it comes to an ordinance for medical cannabis in this city. I really, really hope that the council, in their wisdom, will come to a very, very quick and deep understanding that the implementation of the ordinance as it stands today is not going to work for this city, and that we have to move quickly, otherwise it's just going to devolve into chaos. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Backus. Bird Anderson is our next speaker. Is Bird Anderson here? And then after Mr. Anderson will be Lizzie. No last name. Or Lizzle. But after Mr. Anderson. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi. I know you guys really work hard at what you do. I know you spend a lot of time thinking about the decisions that you make. But I just want to let you know that I just got out of prison. I was there for 13 months.
And the reason I was there was because I was growing for the dispensaries. Okay? I was in Pomona, and the judge there decided that I was growing too many plants to accommodate for a dispensary. And many of these dispensaries have an overwhelming amount of people. And if you dwindle down on the numbers of dispensaries, the numbers of people in the dispensaries that are going to remain are just going to be overwhelming. It's just going to be huge. It's going to be chaos. There's going to be lines out the door. And the people that are not there, that don't want to stand in the line, they're going to go somewhere else. All right? Now, my family's been growing marijuana, cannabis. Folks, my family's been growing marijuana, cannabis for generations. Okay? It grew for the government back in the war. Okay? I personally smoke cannabis because of my hand. I've had 12 surgeries to my right hand. I have many problems with it. I'm missing digits. Okay? By looking at me, you probably wouldn't think that I should have cannabis. But if you look at my hand, you'll probably think otherwise. Okay? There are many problems here. You said before that you would actually take care of the dispensaries, the however many hundred and almost 200 dispensaries that were going to remain. You said you would take care of them. You said that you would accommodate for them. You said you were for safe access. Now, lo and behold, you're looking at trivial problems and actually dwindling it down even further. Okay? That's wrong. Okay? We're supposed to be the city of angels. We're supposed to be able to actually take care of problems and actually come to a mutual an agreement that actually benefits everyone. And I don't see you doing that. I really don't. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lizzie? After that is Sarah Newton. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Lizzle, and I am the Hollywood Teen Captain for all the volunteers working on Proposition 19, the proposition to legalize marijuana in California. And there's only 2 more months until the state of California changes the country for the better, so I am so excited. I am also a medical marijuana patient and industry worker. Actually ex-worker, because y'all closed my store on June 7th by force. This is my unemployment statement from the state of California. On page 2, it's nothing but a bunch of zeros. I don't get any unemployment. And my reason for no longer working, I wrote, the city of Los Angeles passed ordinance that deemed my place of business and business license invalid. We were shut down by force, and I don't get any money from that. And thanks to the efforts of y'all, I actually literally cannot afford to stand here today and demonstrate any understanding or compassion on your latest assault of sick people everywhere. Called the LA City Ordinance, also known as bureaucratic mental incompetency at its best. Have you guys ever heard of the expression living the California dream? Because I am living it, and it's because of medical marijuana. I moved 3,000 miles from Florida just to work in this industry. My dispensary was minority-owned, youth-owned. Every single one of my managers were women. I personally helped 300 to 400 sick people a day, and we were shut down by SWAT team. Then later on, when we relocated, I was shut down by police. You want us to go move into areas that don't exist? I spent 4 months helping my manager try to find a relocation spot. It doesn't exist. How many of you feel bad for the budtenders that were murdered? That could have been me. I went to college for 7 years, and there are 25-year-olds being murdered by criminals. Do you realize that criminals also murder people in gas stations, liquor stores? It's not just cannabis. Thank you for making me lose my job and possibly lose much more business. I appreciate it.
Sarah Newton is our next speaker. Is Sarah Newton here? After Ms. Newton is Adam Smith. Good morning.
Hello again, Council. My name is Sarah Newton. Listen up, because I've got something to say. We are being discriminated against in the city of Los Angeles. Medical marijuana patients, providers, and supporters are being pushed on the outskirts of town like some kind of freaking lepers. We're being pushed out of town for what? We're being discriminated against, okay? I don't see you guys putting a cap on pharmaceuticals. You can go to a CVS on any corner and get any kind of Xanax, Vicodin, the prescription pills that are known to kill hundreds of thousands of people a year. Now, why is it that politicians and city officials are always making the natural things, the healthy alternatives, so damn hard to get a hold of? Why are you guys making the poisons right at our fingertips? Why are you guys putting bad things right in our hands and taking away what's so easy, so natural, and what makes so much sense? Why are you guys doing this? I think it's time for you guys to do what you are elected to do, the one thing that you are elected to do, and that is do what's best for the city of Los Angeles. So I encourage you guys, make a change. Think about what's best for the people. Put your pocketbooks aside and listen to us, because we have something to say. We are people, and we deserve a right to our medicine, our natural medicine. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Smith is our next speaker. After that is John Walsh.
Good morning. I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity to at least speak with you. I come here not as an employee of the pharmacy. I come here not as a patient. I come here as a tax-paying member of Los Angeles County. And I ask for safe access to the medicine that I need. And I hope that brevity is appreciated, because that's all that I need to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. John Walsh is our next speaker. After that is Becky LaPlante. Good morning.
Good morning. John Walsh, blogging at Hollywood Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org. 1,500,000 successful survey requests for the first 6 months. Another 500,000 were projected for the next 6 months. 1,000,000 visitors. And also email us at HollywoodDems, DEMS, @gmail.com. Now, I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true. And the rumor is that Eric grew the mustache so he could go to a medical marijuana clinic under a disguise and buy some marijuana. I don't know if it's true. If you believe it's true, clap. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to what happened yesterday. This city almost went up in flames. There was, within 6 inches of a riot at 6th and Union, because a cop was 50 or 60 feet from a man with a knife, and he shot him dead. Now, you weren't there. You didn't give a damn about it. Where was the mayor? I was glued to Channel 5 last night, and the mayor was glued to Channel 5 last night. A different kind of glue when he's with Channel 5. Where was the mayor? This city, if it hadn't been for the community that pulled back, and it hadn't been for the and they did a great job. Now, we have a gentleman up here, Eric Garcetti, and he has said that his grandmother is a full-blooded Aztec. Why weren't you out there with the indigenous people? Why weren't any of you out there? Why were you sitting watching television? And a lot of people could have been murdered and killed yesterday because of an action of the LAPD. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. Go to HollywoodHighlands.org. That's where you find out what's really happening in this city. Thank you. Take it 1 second.
Thank you, sir. And it's my great-grandmother, just to be clear. Becky LaPlante is our next speaker. After that is Richard Robinson. Grandfather.
I want to thank you guys for your time. My name is Becky. I work at a dispensary. I'm an acupuncturist and an herbalist. I was very skeptical when I first started working there, but I've interviewed many, many patients and asked them why they use the medicine, how much they use, how it works for them. And I've started to become more open-minded because I've seen a lot of people get helped. We have a lot of cancer patients that come to our store, and they are always so happy that they can come in and we're an open-door store and that they can have safe access and they feel comfortable and safe. And I just want you to keep your mind open and have compassion and look at the patients rather than the owners and the people who are fighting. I want you to look at the patients and look from their perspective, and the cancer patients and the pain patients and the fibromyalgia patients, and et cetera, et cetera. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaPlante. Richard Robinson is our next speaker. After that will be Walter Bechtel.
Mr. President, members, Mr. Bradley is watching us. Sir, St. John tells us God is spirit. Spirit is God. The two are synonymous. God is love. Life is God. God is not a man sitting on a throne in a cloud with a book in his lap and a pen writing down our names. It's time we get rid of the myth and arrive at the strong meat. This week, over at the County Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Antonovich is supporting legislation, business-friendly principles in association with SCAG. Now, anyone who's read the Los Angeles Times this morning, pardon me for politicizing, but President Obama's about to begin a whole new era vis-a-vis business in the United States of America. Here today, I remember Mr. Hahn sitting around the Board of Supervisors chambers. I remember Mr. Bradley when he would, for about 20 years, observing Mr. Bradley. What I want you to know is that one day at a time, those two men with Mr. Roybal have established this city.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Walter Bechtel is our next speaker. After that will be Richard Eastman.
Good morning. I was going to say something else, but since everybody's talking about marijuana, I want the council to be reminded that the issue of marijuana is not an issue of whether or not marijuana can cure or nausea or pains of various sorts. The issue is one of abuse of a privilege. There's all kinds of drugs out there, such as there's opiates and other kinds of things that have been used and still are used to cure various ailments. The question is one of the abuse of the privilege. A lot of people say, yes, marijuana cures nausea, and it's true, it does. But another thing it does for the person who's living in the room next to the person smoking marijuana, it actually makes him nauseous. And I don't think it's fair to those sort of people, and I've heard numerous times that these people are arguing that they should not have to only smoke their marijuana in the clinic, that they should be able to go anywhere they want to and smoke it. And that seems to be what the problem is. I've seen people passing marijuana pills and cigarettes on buses, and the thing that began to become frightening is the teenagers hanging around the corners at the train stations starting to create a subculture of drug dealing that I didn't say anything or motion about it. Other people are starting to notice that this has become a problem. So I think if there's going to be any negotiations, you should force these people to realize that their need is being abused by these other people, and they need to become aware of that. It's not an issue of whether or not it's a cure.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Thank you, Mr. Bechtel. Mr. Eastman is next, and then Sarah Armstrong will follow. Good morning.
Distinguished City Council, President Garcetti, Richard Eastman, citizen of Los Angeles since 1976, former HIV/AIDS Commissioner of the County of Los Angeles, and one of the co-founders of medical marijuana with Dennis Perrone and Jack Herrera and Brownie Mary, and many of my friends have died of AIDS and cancer and glaucoma and multiple sclerosis. And you know, I've marched across this country from Sacramento to San Francisco to Los Angeles to San Diego to Washington, D.C., at the White House, in Colorado, helping elect President Barack Obama, helping elect Paul Koretz for the L.A. City Council, helping elect Carmen Trutanich. And you know, I'm a little discouraged today to be a citizen of Los Angeles, because as a person living with AIDS, who's almost died 5 times in the last 15 years and has come before this council many hundreds of times in those 15 years demanding safe access to my medicine. I'm horrified to see that 167 providers of medicine are being whittled down to 41, and perhaps, what are you going to do? Bring it down to 1? When I opened that one in West Hollywood in 1995, when Dennis Perone said, I think you only have 6 months to live, and would you need your medicine? Would you help me? And would you help the other cancer people and the glaucoma people? And you know, I ran for office once a few years ago, and we're in an election year where we need Jerry Brown, Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, and Noah 19. And Janice, I was for you, but I'm a Democrat, and I'm urging you to vote for the politicians that support medical marijuana. And maybe I might just run for your seat, Eric Garcetti, because you're termed out. And Richard Eastman lives in the 13th district, and it's been 13 or 14 years since I've been fighting for this medicine, and I'm going to fight all the way through an election and be elected a city councilman that won't wear a tie to this council every day. And maybe we'll represent the people a little better than you guys have. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Sarah Armstrong will be our next speaker. After Ms. Armstrong will be Yami Bolanos. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Armstrong. I'm the founding member of the working group which you convened to help write the ordinance. I also sit on the board of directors for a pre-ICO registered dispensary in the Valley, one of many which are now being sued by the city. I'm here today to ask you to investigate the city attorney's office. When they served us and could not gain our agent for service, the process service for the city of Los Angeles walked outside, threw the pleading in the dirt, and left. When a patient volunteer at my collective retrieved the package, we found that much of it was Xeroxed so poorly that we could not read the charges against us. It was just horrible service. In the next few days, I'll be getting a letter out to you along with pieces of the packet which are unreadable, and I would call upon all the city council members to investigate the city attorney's office and make sure that this lawsuit is a proper proceeding and not a kangaroo court where those accused are given service which is ineffective and then provided pleadings which cannot be read. This is just a travesty and not something that the city council should be a part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. Yami Bolanos is our next speaker. After that will be Sarah Diesel. Good morning, ma'am.
Hello, good morning, City Council. My name is Yamilet Bolaños. I am the patient operator for Pure Life Alternative Wellness Center. I am the president of the Greater Los Angeles Collectives Alliance. I've had cancer 3 times. I'm a liver transplant recipient. I have diabetes. I have high blood pressure. I have severe IBS, and lately I've been suffering from ulcers. But I'm here to tell you that the city attorney is what's going to kill me, okay? This latest trick that he's pulled on us is unacceptable. Janice, you were the first to visit my collective. It's been my family and I from the very beginning. Mr. Zine and Mr. Reyes, you visited my collective on April 20th of 2009. Then it was my family and myself running my collective. Mr. Garcetti, you told me and you told this entire city council that you would help those of us that had helped you. Well, I'm here today as a patient of the city of Los Angeles that voted for many of you and got my patients to vote for you and help you financially. I'm here to ask you for help against the city attorney. He's wrong. He's wrong. He said that I'm ineligible because I changed management. How am I supposed to run my collective alone? Who the hell did you guys think was running my collective when I was here talking to you guys, trying to make you understand? I need help. The patients of the city of Los Angeles need your help today. Do not let us down. I'm begging you. Do not let us down today. Please.
Thank you, Ms. Bolanos. Sarah Diesel is next. After Ms. Diesel will be Oliver Summers.
Stay standing up. Whoever's here for cannabis, stand up.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Garcetti. I enjoy the beard. Hello. My name is Sarah Diesel, and I've been coming here for the last 5 years. As a patient, as somebody who's managed many collectives, I have done so much, and we've done so much. Janice, where are you? Koretz, I did phone banking for you, helped vote you in. Rosendahl, you've been my hero whenever you talk. You know, Berger, David Berger, he came to Yami's collective. We have done everything to be allies and to be your friends. And here, all of the people that have come, you're now saying are ineligible. I don't want to go to most of those people that are eligible because I didn't go there for the reason that I didn't go there. They're not eligible. Some of them may be, but most of them are not. The ineligible ones are the ones that have been standing at this podium, talking to you, making phone calls, doing everything that we can. I am a very healthy person because I use cannabis. I'm a vegan. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cigarettes. And I choose cannabis because it's the only thing that keeps me sane. And honestly, I lost my mom at 50 years old to cancer. And I know for a darn fact she'd still be here today if it wasn't for bad laws like this ordinance and for bad laws all across America. We need to legalize it. We need to decriminalize it. We need to understand that it's safer than cigarettes. I don't go take 10-minute breaks on my 10-minute break for my cigarettes. I have to stay in my office and I have to work while others go smoke cancer sticks because they think it's okay, because our government says it's fine, drink, take a drink, you'll be fine. Well, no. I choose to smoke cannabis. The collectives that have come up here, one of them I get my flowers from. The other I get a lotion that I use for my arthritis. The next place I get my edibles from. If you limit me to one collective, it's not a good idea, you guys. Please, please listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Diesel. Oliver Summers is our next speaker. After Mr. Summers will be Barry Kramer. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Oh, I hope you all had a good vacation because I sure didn't. I just spent the past 3 months since I last stood up here looking for a new location so that I could be involved with the ordinance and do everything properly because I've been doing that since day one. And then, of course, this little onion in the ointment came in recently, and you recently said that my collective was ineligible. Well, I will say that I have done everything possible to be on top of the laws, to do everything that you guys have already asked. And you've just looped me in with all these other places. That would be like me looping you in with Councilman Alacrone, who's not listening to us at all because, you know, he's got a lot of other things on his plate at this point in time. But do you see how it would feel to be looped in with something like that? I am not a criminal. I do not want to be looped in with the criminals that have done things in this business. Yes, you've all received complaints about collectives. I don't like seeing 3 to 4 collectives on a block either. But here's the thing. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are operators out there who have done everything possible. We have named many council people here who have come to collectives. Mr. Kretz, you have come to mine. And you guys have said, I'm a model. We're a model. Your people have come and looked and said, we are a model of a collective of Los Angeles. And we are deemed ineligible because we had a manager change, which is not true at all. Managers have always remained the same at our collective. It's just in 2007, they asked for one name, and in 2010, they asked for all the names. They put the 2 pieces of paper together, and when there was discrepancies in that, that's what they considered a change. Now, here's the question. Here's the thing about that. Only through education will I be able to change your minds on this situation. Only through the understanding will you be able to get through this convoluted, confusing issue. These are some decent operators that you are throwing out in order to punish the bad operators. Just stop, think, and do something right for a change.
Thank you, sir. Barry Kramer is our next speaker. After Mr. Kramer will be Jerry Tyrangio.
Good morning. My name is Barry Kramer. I'm a medical marijuana patient. I'm a resident of Los Angeles, and I am an operator of one of the over 50 collectives, I believe, that are being sued to shut down, thereby denying our patients safe access because of a management change. The city has deemed that a management change is somehow harmful to our community. Have you had management changes in your city council staffs? Should we close your offices and tell you to find new jobs? Because you are now a threat to your communities? How about this? Should we close down all the police stations? Because, you know, there was a top management change there about a year and a half ago with Chief Beck. Maybe these police stations are now harmful to our communities. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's a ridiculous argument. So where did this come from? Where did this come from? This is not the dialogue that we've been having for 3 years and trying to create sensible regulations. Where did it come from? It's your job to find out and to correct this attempt to shut down patient access to community dispensaries and collectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jerry Tarangio is our next speaker. After that will be Michael Pell. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. My name's Jerry Tarangio. In 1975, I left a religious cult that subsequently I began to hear their voices. This was a psychiatric problem I'd never endured anything like in my life. I sought to deal with it conventional methods, namely psychotropic medications, which basically left me lying on a couch, needing to be fed, unable to move. This is to be able to deal with this psychological problem. Later on, I did turn to marijuana. It dealt with this, hearing the voices of these members of this cult quite effectively without rendering me unable to carry on with normal daily living. I resent being forced to seek out illicit means of gaining an effective, natural, not harmful medicine for myself. I suspect that everyone comes up here is asking, what brought these changes on? Well, I suspect that there are certain underlying forces, certain behind the doors kind of thing, influences here, whether it be pharmaceutical interests, pharmaceutical companies who are responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths annually, but they're very good at covering all that up. These are major criminals that no one's doing anything about, and yet we have here available a natural medicine with relatively few side effects, has nowhere nearly a record of biological destruction that drugs do, and we're having to fight for something that is God-given, natural.
Thank you. Michael Pell is our next speaker. After Mr. Pell will be William Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I like the beard. All you need is a yarmulke and a Borsellino hat, and you got it. I would like to thank Mr. Koretz for his appearance on the Chabad telethon and remind him and Councilman Rosendahl that Rosh Hashanah is one long day. I hope you have your excuses in for Friday, because you should be in shul hearing shofar. As to the medical marijuana matter, I think the city attorney and others that are enforcing the ordinance are being rather nitpicky. It's what we call in basketball ticky-tack fouls. And in the tradition of C-SPAN, I yield back the balance of my time.
William Leahy is our next speaker. After that is Don Duncan.
Good morning. My name is William Leahy, and I'm a medical marijuana patient. I'm one of 400,000 in this city. And I look around here, and I wonder how many of you people actually know who you represent. I know I see various things going on here. We are all of voting age. I know in the last election, we got behind Mr. Tritunich and said we would back him if he would give us safe access. We backed him. He won. Mr. Koretz, we backed him. We guaranteed him over 700 votes. He won by 724 votes. We can make a difference in the elections. And this ordinance that we have is not a good ordinance. 2.5 weeks ago, a judge in Nevada had a punishment for a young man to write a paper on what a mess the LA ordinance is. So other states are laughing at our ordinance. The ordinance that we have here. It should never have left Plum. Why it went to the city attorney, I can't imagine. It's a land use management situation, and you gentlemen, if you want to stay in office, you need to take care of us. We are citizens, and I don't want to be treated like a second-class citizen. I want you to take care of me, or I will vote for someone else and look at different faces next time.
Thank you, sir. Don Duncan is our next speaker. After Mr. Duncan will be Melody Carroll. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President, council members. My name is Don Duncan. I'm a resident of Los Angeles and the California Director for Americans for Safe Access, the nation's largest medical cannabis advocacy organization. And I am back again to talk to you about the medical cannabis ordinance. As you know, the City Clerk's Office has published a preliminary priority list deeming only 25% of the pre-ICO collectives to be eligible to continue with the registration process. And just to ratchet up the heat a little bit more, the City Attorney's Office then filed suit against the 135 excluded collectives. And this aggressive posture is inappropriate and it seems disproportionate given that the city has done very little to enforce against other collectives. And it's ironic that those collectives that for the last few years have stood with this council, worked with this council, and jumped through every hoop, reasonable or otherwise, that they would now be the target of the most aggressive enforcement in the city of Los Angeles. I might remind you that while the city attorney's office is targeting the pre-ICO collectives that registered pursuant to this ordinance and are attempting to comply, new collectives are opening around the city, apparently without consequence. One just opened right in District 13, right where I live, just down the street from my house. And so we may need to go back to the drawing board on some of the provisions of the ordinance. And I know this council doesn't want to. But there are proven benefits to regulation. And if we maintain this adversarial posture and no one puts the city attorney's office in check, we're going to see more delay, more litigation, more stalling, more confusion. And it doesn't have to be that way. We could be enjoying a situation where access in the city is protected, complaints are reduced, and crime is reduced. These are the proven outcomes of regulation. But instead, we're still going through this this process of chasing our tail and debating the minutia. What's happened with this list is not correct. These collectives should have an opportunity to come into compliance or to explain why they are already in compliance, for instance, with the issue with the paperwork. And so I urge you to take the reins back and make a difference in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Melody Carroll. After Ms. Carroll will be Louis Codner. Good morning.
Good morning. I was told to be to follow this because it makes me very nervous to be up here speaking to all of you. So I was coached on this, and I was told, do the ABCs. A, be accurate. You lied. B, be brief. You lied. C, be courteous. You really lied to us, council. I'm through.
Thank you. Louis Codner is our next speaker. After that is Brennan Thick. Good morning, sir.
Hi, Louis Codner. I appreciate being here. In a few days, it'll be 40 years ago I was made a United States Marine Corps on the steps of this city hall. I have a lot of friends are in need of medical marijuana. I'm one. We got together. We listened to the city council. They said, don't need to go to the dispensary. They're not safe. Grow your own. I was growing for 7 patients. Most of them are terminal. Somebody climbed over in the yard. It's all gone. You guys, if you want us to grow, give us a safe way, maybe a community place to do it. But you're not giving us the access we need. You are supposed to serve and protect us, the people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brennan Thick is our next speaker. After Mr. Thick will be Amy Ewing. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, council. So I just want to make 3 points to kind of summarize what everybody's talking about here. Number 1, the city attorney has either fooled you or you're fooling us. Number 2, this ordinance is elimination through technicality. There's only 41 places left eligible. Less than 5 or 6 of those might make it through this process. Number 3, jobs lost, vacancies in buildings, and lawsuits. Is this a great idea? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Thick. Amy Ewing is our next speaker. After that is Carlos Kay. Good morning.
Good morning. In 2008, I relocated to Los Angeles when I was granted a fellowship scholarship to a local graduate fine arts program. Having suffered for about 15 years from an eating disorder, I looked into medical cannabis and really found it to be a great natural alternative to the many, many failed prescribed medications that I tried. I'm standing here today because I am absolutely shocked and quite appalled that, you know, in a time when California has become the model progressive state to other states, 14 now I believe, who have followed in our footsteps, I'm just shocked that at the city level you would choose to function as a concrete hindrance to the implementation of the will of the people as shown in the voter pass Proposition 215 and the will of the government as shown in the writing of SB 420. And I stand here to ask you today to please just stop being an obstacle, choose to be progressive, be the beacon of light that the rest of the country looks toward, and let us fund you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Ewing. Carlos Kay is our next speaker. We have a microphone, a handheld. You okay? All right. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Carlos Kluszewski. I use medical marijuana for like a gram a day. That's one way I be functional. And I ask you guys what the reason you guys closing the Pure Life Alternative. That's the only place I know give up the caregiver and support people with disability. So please thinking about it. Like Pure Life Alternative as a family group, they support us. And if I don't have it there, then I don't know how I'm going to function every other days, you know, because we need to work in the caregiver programs with all the stores, you know, giving nothing. So I wonder why they closed down their own store. Help us out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Appreciate it. That will close our general public comment for today. I want to thank everybody for taking time. We don't take that your time for granted, and we thank you for being here today. We can't, under the Brown Act, respond directly to what's been said, but we hear what you have said, and we thank you for being here very much. And we will now turn to the items that have been called special for today. First item, please.
Item 1, called special for cards.
Okay. Item number 1 for us. Colin Lai is our first speaker. And after that will be Sharon Lowe. Good morning, and thank you for your patience, sir.
Morning. Thank you, Brother Chair and members of the council, and the councilperson CD, Brother Ed Reyes. Morning. I come in support of the renewal of the Council District 1, the Business Improvement District. Our membership took action in the July meeting to support of the renewal of the district. Here I represent the Chinese American Citizenship Alliance. I was the past president. Currently I'm the regional grant executive. I'm here to plead the case for our membership in support of the renewal of BID, the Business Improvement District. The reason why is this. Since 10 years ago when I first appeared before the City Council, that time was Michael Hernandez was a City Council member. And with the vote was 11 to zip. I want the vote now to be 14 and zip. Thank you. But the question is this, why we are supporting this action is it the renewal is the improvement in the Los Angeles Chinatown district of the BID. The graffiti, the prostitutes, the drug dealers, the gamblers, and the hustlers are all gone. The graffiti is all clean. You walk down there, we have curb appeal. Through the council action of Ed Reyes over here, we have trees in the community, curb appeal, we have new lighting, the streets are clean, we have benches, so it's 1,000% improvement, ladies and gentlemen. So we need this renewal for the city, from the city, the help from the city over here, because we ourselves know this, is self-sufficient, self-reliance on the community. That's what we represent. Our organization was founded in the Los Angeles chapter 1912, the Chinese American Citizenship Alliance. So we speak, you know, with the lived experience, our corporate headquarters in San Francisco, founded in 1895. So as a past president 10 years ago, I spoke before you, and I want to support again. Now, of course, there's always dissension among the ranks. The people want, you know, this and that, but we want harmony. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Sharon Lowe is our next speaker. After that is Kim Benjamin. Good morning.
Good morning, President Garcetti, members of the council. I'm sure Councilmember Reyes is surprised that I'm here today and that I'm here speaking in support of the Greater Chinatown BID. I've always had my qualms and concerns in the past. However, I am compelled to come here today to speak in support of the Greater Chinatown's BID's request for an extension to expand and extend their operations for another period of time. And the basis of this is based upon personal observations. We've just completed in Chinatown 4 wonderful summer nights in Chinatown that were very successful. This was a successful partnership venture, including the BID, the Community Redevelopment Agency, and other community partnerships, community-based organizations, which brought families, 10 to 15,000 visitors per night to Chinatown. That equates to retaining our businesses, retaining our jobs, and many of the businesses that participated in there that stayed open later, and it's been years since Chinatown has been open. So I think we should give credit when there is positive, progressive improvements. And for that, I thank the BID, because that is exactly what they've done. And let me give you a simple checklist. Is Chinatown safer today? Yes. Is it cleaner? Yes. Are businesses improving? Yes. Is the quality of life for Chinatown stakeholders improving? Yes. Does Chinatown BID work in collaboration with Chinatown's residential and business stakeholders? Yes. Does Chinatown BID promote the marketing of Chinatown's unique cultural heritage? Yes. It maintains an active website, collaborates and hosts cultural events and festivals that promotes our community in an authentic manner, and it preserves our cultural heritage. So for all these reasons, I speak in support, and I think they've done a fantastic job, and we should reward them and give them another extension. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Kim Benjamin is our next speaker. And then Scott Lee.
Good morning. I'm not Kim Benjamin. He had to take off for a family emergency. Okay. But I would urge, my name is George Yu. I'm the Executive Director of the Chinatown Business Improvement District. Thank you for hearing us out, and I would urge your support. I think most of you are aware of what we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Lee is our next speaker. After that is Martin Lee.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our family has been involved in business in Chinatown since 1951, and I have been personally involved in Chinatown for 25 years as a property and business owner. I'm here in support of the renewal and expanded Greater BID in Chinatown, as well as the current management team. When the Chinatown BID was organized some years ago, I was skeptical at first, but after 10 years, I applaud the Chinatown BID for the good work and leadership that it has provided our neighborhood. Of course, no BID is without its critics, and Chinatown is no exception. I find these gripes and demands of many detractors as ridiculous and groundless, and most importantly, to the detriment of our community. The BID's programs and services are central and basic to the vitality of our neighborhood: public safety, beautification and cleanliness, and marketing and promotions. I'd like to point out that before the BID existed, other community organizations or groups, for the most part, either failed miserably in addressing these issues or ignored them altogether. Yes, these are challenging economic times for Chinatown, but without the BID, I couldn't imagine what it would be like. When I hear the names of individuals that critics consider as part of the solution, I have to refrain from gagging. Why would anybody want to fix something that is already working? As a longtime stakeholder, I believe many detractors have only themselves to blame for their woes and frustrations, for many have chosen to not change with the times and arguably have become irrelevant. As a member of the BID Advisory Board, I take my position and responsibility very seriously. Of course, there is always room for improvement, but the current management team, led by George Yu, has served our community well. He has done his job efficiently, effectively, responsibly, and with a tremendous degree of transparency. As one that represents interest in the Chinatown BID, that accounts for over $40,000 in annual BID assessments, please know that I wholeheartedly support the extension of the BID, and ask that the City Council support them as well.
Thank you very much. Martin Lee is our next speaker. Chester Chung will be the speaker after that. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President, council members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of Chinatown. My name is Martin Lee. I'm a business owner and property owner in Chinatown. I was born and raised in Chinatown, and I've seen significant changes where we used to sweep our front properties, but no longer does that happen. The BID, and I support the BID, has done a tremendous job in turning Chinatown around. Quite frankly, my family and I have been so discouraged 15 years ago with the disrepair in Chinatown, we almost gave up hope. But because of the BID, George Yu, the staff, and members of the board have done an incredible job. As Ms. Lowe checklist off, there's a tremendous improvement. Normally, I am not in favor of taxes, increased taxes, when I see my tax money being wasted. But there is a direct correlation with the taxes paid for the BID and what the BID does. We see every day the work that is being done in Chinatown to improve Chinatown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Chester Chung will be our next speaker. After that is Larry Chung. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, President or Council Member. I'm Chester Chung, the President of Chinese Chamber of Commerce of Los Angeles. I've been a board of the Chamber for 20 years, and I've been last 4 years the President of the Chamber of Commerce. And the first year I'm on the President, the community complained to me about the BID. They not do the great job, and they say a lot the thing about regarding the BID. And that moment, I talked to the BID. I talked to the community. The major, I say, hey, we may have some misunderstanding. We should do some, negotiation. We to talk. So, my first year, I tried to talk to the BID. The representative is George Yu. I worked so hard, and I tried the communication with him, and I talked. The first year we done a great job, and at least our, the chamber have a 112-year Golden Dragon Parade, and we have, festival is a major event in the community. And the BID, Georgia, they come to support my event for the, on the stage. Then I very, very appreciate, and they do the great job for the cleaning the street and also the security work. And the other year, the following year, I talked to same thing. I talked to Mr. Yu. I say, hey, we need your support. And he tried to give me some excuse. He said, hey, last year you guys take a stage and hour, only 1 hour. I tell you, that's the truth. They say the chamber not cooperate with them, and I'm sorry. This is misunderstanding. And he tried to say this is no good. They try to be control the whole thing. But one thing for the chamber, as I want to say, is we need to work together. We need to cooperate. We work each other. And also the bad thing is they say we don't have budget to provide for you for the cleaning and security. And I have all paperwork and the email to confirm. And I'm so upset. What happened is I immediately talked to the board of the BID. I say, hey, I need help. The BID board immediately helped me to call, the board meeting for Mr. Yu and say what happened. In the return, they told me, hey, Chester, they don't say that. They say they support you clean.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have to try to keep time as even for everybody as possible, so the time has expired. If you want to just finish your thought. Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah, just last sentence.
Yes, last sentence. Okay, as the Chamber of Commerce, I need the business. I need to cooperate. I need the teamwork. I need to, work together. It's harmony and peaceful in the community. That's how I need to work. It's not one man handle the whole thing. I love BID. BID is important for me.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments today. Thank you. Larry Chung is our next speaker. After that is Michael Chung. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Larry Chung. I'm the president of Los Angeles Chinatown Corporation, and I represent the founding fathers and their descendants of Chinatown. When BID was up for approval 10 years ago, we were skeptical about the effectiveness of our taxes, the amount that we had to pay to support the efforts in Chinatown. But over the last 10 years, we've seen George Yu and the BID basically clean up Chinatown. And we have now switched sides and support his efforts in the renewal of the BID. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Michael Chung. After that is Steve Wong.
President, my name is Michael Chang, representing Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association. I'm against the renewal of Chinatown BID. The reason is I'm very upset to stand here to talk about what Chinatown BID done in last 10 years. BID has a 1.36 million budget each year, but they spend $735,000, approximately 50% on sidewalk cleaning, and the rest of the fund only less than 20%, $270,000 to spend on the marketing and promotions. What's the purpose for BID? BID is the purpose for BID is improve business, but they only spend less than 7% on this thing. No wonder Chinatown's more vacancy than ever before. Property owner pay the assessed tax. What the purpose? They want to bring in business, but however, they spend all the monies on the sidewalks cleaning and some other events. The only 7 days event held in every year, so that's what defeat the purpose. The second thing, Chinatown is a jewel on the crown in Los Angeles. BID should bring in more business, spend more money on the promotion, the business, bring in the tourists. If not, it's to defeat the purpose. The third thing is how the BID's board member form. The property owner, a lot of doesn't even know that. And we want the BID's board members have to be transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Steve Wong is our next speaker. After that is Nam Wong. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Wong. I'm representing the Wong Family Association of Los Angeles. Our association has some property, owns some property in Chinatown. They're both on Broadway. We have 4 stores, 2 of them on each side. For the last 30 or 40 years, everything's going so smoothly until 10 years ago. This BID came along, and under our protest, our association had to pay over $7,000 a year property tax. Now, not only that, they increase every 5% every year. For the last 10 years, our family association pay over $100,000 tax just for the BID. And what did they do? They said they clean up Chinatown. Sure, it's the city's job to clean up the Chinatown, right? Not the BID. They said promote business. What business has been promoted? Right? He said, well, it's no crime. The city take care of the crime, not the BID. The BID is supposed to promote business. They hasn't done anything to promote business. And the $100,000 Offset Family Association is all in vain. We cannot accept another 10 years of this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Nam Wong was the other speaker that we had.
Good morning, Council. My name is Nam Wong, President of Wong Family Associations. I'm pleading with you people to help the small business. We had the news conference at the Chinese Benevolent Association about a month ago. All the small business owners are against this. As you folks must be aware, we are in the midst of the so-called Great Recession. Just today, President Obama said that we get to make more money available to the business community. If you increase taxation, it's a certain way of depriving the small business in operating. And if you folks have gone to Chinatown lately, you can see many empty stores. And Wong Family Association owns some of these stores. They are pleading with us to reduce the rent. If not, they would fold. Now, Chinatown is a good place for me to visit for many years. I'm very fond of it. And the reason I go there is for enjoyment and to fulfill the need. So what we really need to do is find out why people still want to go to Chinatown. So really what it boils down to is this bid would increase taxation, would destroy business rather than helping it. I got to tell you folks, this is the second time that I appear here. The first time I appeared was also against it, and the reason I was against it is because the plan would lead into reducing business, not increasing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. John Walsh is our next speaker, then Leighton Lee.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. 9/11 this Saturday, come to our meetup. It's at a restaurant at Gower Gulch. Check it on our website. You know, I live in a BID, stands for Business Improvement District. Now, if you think out there you don't own a business and you're not getting taxed, my landlord in Hollywood is taxed. That goes into the COLA, and everybody who lives in the Hollywood Business Improvement District pays the tax. What do we get? Well, they hire private security. In other words, you're double taxed. You're taxed for the LAPD and you're taxed for private security. Also, cleaning the streets. You're taxed for city services, and then since the city isn't doing it, you're taxed again. But they're doing a wonderful job. The BID police are doing a wonderful job. Did you see on television when they attacked two hearing impaired people who they thought had been shoplifters? Did you see them screeching horribly as they were beaten up? Everybody in the world has seen that video. It has over 1 million hits on YouTube. You don't give a damn about hearing impaired people unless they make contributions. I hope you've seen that. A few of the people are listening. Alakon is listening. This Koretz is reading the newspaper. He doesn't give a damn about hearing impaired people being beaten up, Koretz. Nor do any of you. You saw what happened.
If you can bring it back to the Chinatown Day, please.
Hey, anytime you feel I'm committing a crime,
Sir?
for speaking loud,
Sir, no.
Hollywood Highlands.
Thank you, sir. Leighton Lee is our next speaker. That's out of order. Thank you. You were no longer speaking about the Chinatown BID. I asked you to please bring it back to the Chinatown BID. We appreciate your comments, but those are better for general public comment. Thank you, sir. Leighton Lee is our last speaker. Mr. Lee? Is Leighton Lee here?
Good morning,
Good morning, sir.
Councilman. My name is Leighton Lee. I've been living in Los Angeles for a long time. My father used to have a restaurant business there. The DID, they make this proposal to revise the Chinatown. They impose the property owner with tax and pay for a lot of these expenses, and we don't know. That for one thing, the city doesn't help the Chinatown that much, because they put the meter, it's on 1/4 is only 8 minutes. That's the highest in the state that I know. You go to Beverly Hills, downtown, all those meter are much less, 1/4 for 15 minutes. So that doesn't help the Chinatown business. And also, the DID make this proposal that tell the property people had to support this thing. That's not legally, we cannot accept it. That I oppose it for this, whatever the proposal they have, that put the property responsible for the benefit for other private people. So I oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'd like to read into the record that David Louis, also from the BID, was here in favor. We appreciate everyone's comments. Today, we are not taking action. We have just the public hearing, so we'll close the public hearing. We want to thank everybody for taking time. And the vote, Mr. Clerk, will be when?
The ballot tabulation is for tomorrow's meeting.
For tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. That will be tomorrow. I'd now like to recognize the council member from the 1st District, Councilmember Ed Reyes, who's joined by other council members who will join him, I know, at the podium, to recognize a very esteemed guest that we have here today. We want to thank everybody for their patience, and we are honored to welcome the President of the State of El Salvador to Council Chambers. Please welcome him with a round of applause. Thank you very much. I shouldn't have standing over there. You need to stretch your feet anyway, right? Senor Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to invite my colleagues to join me here at the podium. Councilor Alarcon Cardenas, Councilor Huizar, and Councilor Labange, as the president of the Sister Cities, had to leave. But I want to thank him for his support, his office, and allowing this occasion to come to pass. What I'd like to do is also ask the leadership of the Salvadoran community to come up to the red rope. I'd like to have you stand with us. Maybe we can just allow that. Come in. First, I'd like to welcome the Presidente del Salvador, Mauricio Funes. Welcome, sir. This is his first official city visit to Los Angeles. As a sister city, I have been very honored to represent a district that has one of the largest populations of Salvadoreños here in Los Angeles, if not in the country. And there is a special connection because working with them since the early 1990s in partnership with then Councilman Hernandez, where we were able to embrace the Salvadoran community and look at the various methods by which we can support through foundations, through housing, through clinics. And it is with this history that we come to appreciate the unique, the powerful, the beautiful culture of the Salvadoran community. In that process, we've seen individuals mature to run organizations like El Rescate, Carecen, Clínica Romero, Salef, and many other organizations in the chamber in areas of business and commerce. And to be able to embrace this great community and to look at all of the accomplishments that have been, to this point, realized. I also want to recognize that Presidente Funes was in Los Angeles yesterday sharing much of his support with various organizations. I had the honor of listening to his presentation. And this is a president who has a history of the highest vote in popularity as president. I want to congratulate you, sir. But just as significant is the understanding that we have to embrace and build upon the economic development strategies that allows both the United States of America and El Salvador to continue to mature economically for the benefit of our countries. As Father Gregory Boyle says, nothing stops a bullet better than a job. And when we look at how we stimulate this relationship, it's a relationship about our quality of life, both here in Los Angeles and in El Salvador. And it's through this creation of understanding, of realizing that we need to do a better job of allowing the assimilation process to evolve, where parents will know how to engage the school system, how to encourage their children to continue in education, how we as a city, as a government, can embrace this population so they can have the careers to continue developing not only our neighborhoods, our city, but our country. In as much as El Salvador also benefits as the mother country. So as we nurture this umbilical cord, it is a strength that will allow all of us to have a greater experience as an international economy. So with that, I'd like to ask my colleagues to share a few words, and then I would ask Presidente Funes to share some thoughts with us. And again, I'd like to present to you, President Funes, my colleagues. I'd like to start with Councilmember Cardenas.
Thank you. Thank you. Gracias, Ed Reyes. It's an honor for me to stand here as an elected official, as son of immigrants from Mexico, to be able to welcome a president from a country that is just south of us. And it's an honor for me as an American to remind all Americans that we are a country of immigrants. And this country has been founded and built by the hands of people who were born in this country, but also by many, many hands who have come to this country for a second chance. And there's no question that there are tens and tens of thousands of individuals who have come to this city of Los Angeles from El Salvador to have a second chance. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your people with us, and thank you for sharing your country's wisdom and your abilities. And we welcome the people from El Salvador as we welcome the President of El Salvador. Me da mucho gusto y un honor de decir que yo soy hijo de inmigrantes, mis padres son de México, y es un honor estar aquí como un elegido de la ciudad de Los Ángeles para decir bienvenido al presidente de El Salvador y también a todas las personas que vinieron aquí a Los Ángeles para empezar su nueva vida y también para reconocer lo que ellos están dando a la economía de Los Ángeles y la comunidad de Los Ángeles. Es muy importante que todos nosotros nos reunimos en la verdad que es que este país de los Estados Unidos está hecho de manos de americanos y también de migrantes que están contribuyendo mucho a nuestra economía y también a lo bueno de este país. Gracias.
Councilmember Alarcón.
The community of El Salvadoreños in Los Angeles is one of the fastest growing communities in our great city. As such, it brings tremendous wealth to our educational system, to our arts and sciences, to our business community. But we also have challenges, and those challenges are challenges that we share as countries. It was my pleasure to join with a delegation of the mayor's office 4 years ago to meet with the former president of El Salvador to discuss criminal justice issues that have not only impacted our community, but have transferred to El Salvador and are presenting challenges to their government. And I know this president has already taken action on exactly those issues, and we are hopeful that we can continue to work not only on the cultural benefits and the economic benefits of our mutual gain, but also on improving the problems that have existed as a result of the growth of gang violence in Los Angeles. And so we welcome this delegation, not only in spirit, not only as a cultural representation, but clearly as a commitment to work together as communities of Latin American and the Western Hemisphere to make a better Western Hemisphere, to improve the opportunities for all. As Latinos have become a larger segment of the population of Los Angeles, it is critical that the community of residents who come from El Salvador and have their heritage in El Salvador become a full partner in the development of Los Angeles and the United States. And we welcome the President here to Los Angeles and to this country so that we can begin the process of working together on all of those problems. Bienvenidos a Los Ángeles. Es un placer estar aquí con ustedes, con su delegación. Gracias por estar aquí.
Councilmember Huizar.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Reyes, and to President Funes, to his distinguished cabinet and visitors from El Salvador. We welcome you to the city of Los Angeles. We know how important it is that we have communication that is open, that we continue to work together for the betterment of Salvadoranians here in the United States and in El Salvador. I feel quite honored to be standing here next to Presidente Funes, someone who represents a new horizon for El Salvador. I visited El Salvador during the election. I went as an international observer for the elections, and let me tell you, it was great to see the hope that people have now for El Salvador, that President Funes is working on behalf of all Salvadoranians. As we all know, in Central America and now South America, there are great inequities. And perhaps in El Salvador, the inequities has sparked a civil war, has sparked numerous and thousands upon thousands of deaths. But President Funes has focused on obliterating that inequality. President Funes has focused on ensuring that all Salvadoranians, no matter what economic class you may be born into, should also have the same opportunities. Here in the United States, a few months before President Funes was elected, we elected our own president in President Obama. President Obama did something that many thought would not be possible in our lifetimes. That is, we elected an African-American president that brings hope, and to show that in the United States we're doing all possible to ensure that opportunities are the same for everyone, no matter race or what economic class you may come from. President Funes represents that same hope in El Salvador. Los damos las bienvenidas a Los Ángeles. Esperamos que trabajemos juntos en los años que vienen. Su presencia aquí en Los Ángeles es sumamente importante para enseñarle a los líderes de la ciudad de Los Ángeles y la gente de raíces salvadoreña que vamos a tener un futuro mejor para los que viven aquí en El Salvador. Bienvenidos a la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
Gracias. Si me permite, presidente Funes, quería invitar a mis colegas para compartir unas palabras con nosotros.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, welcome to the United States. We are a country of immigrants, and Los Angeles symbolizes it more than any other big city in our great nation. Most recently, a good friend of mine, Jim Manja, who runs the clinics in Los Angeles, all these health clinics, went to your country and worked with your new Minister of Health on your health care clinics and making them more effective and more efficient. And hats off to you. He came back and said, your leadership and your commitment to the poor people, to the people who need quality health care, has been extraordinary. So we want to thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership in your country, and thank you for your partnership with the United States of America. Thank you.
Finalmente, Presidente Funes, gracias por venir. Es un honor a tener usted en esta Cámara. Los Ángeles es la ciudad segunda de salvadoreños en el mundo y es nuestro placer tener este honor hoy. Su modelo nuevo, su nuevo modelo de liderazgo es una inspiración, la esperanza de una nación del pueblo en sus manos, y el trabajo entre nuestras naciones en la seguridad, la salud, el desarrollo económico es una parte de nuestro programa. Y suerte con el TPS. The reason that the President is here, part of the reason is to renew TPS, which is a temporary worker status for so many Salvadorians who are living in this country, and we support you. Nuestro apoyo en esta iniciativa es muy importante y estamos juntos con ustedes. So we wanted to thank you for being here. I just mentioned that the model of leadership that the President brings, a new model for El Salvador, really embodies in his hands the hope of a nation and of a people. And we certainly are blessed with your presence here and want to thank you, and thank you, Mr. Reyes, for taking the lead on this delegation, and we'd be honored to hear some words from you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Y I'd like to present to you el Presidente Mauricio Funes.
Muchas gracias, honorables miembros del Consejo de la Ciudad de Los Ángeles.
Thank you very much, honorable members of the City of Los Angeles.
Señor embajador de El Salvador en Washington, don Francisco Alchol.
Mr. Francisco Alchol, Ambassador in Washington from El Salvador.
Señor cónsul general de El Salvador en la ciudad de Los Ángeles, don Walter Durán.
Mr. Walter Durán, Consul General in Los Angeles, Consul General from El Salvador.
Señores miembros del gabinete de gobierno y la comitiva oficial que me acompañan en esta histórica visita.
Members of the Cabinet of El Salvador and all the delegation that is joining me in this great visit to your city.
Señoras y señores y amigos de la prensa.
Ladies and gentlemen and friends of the media.
Es un honor para mí encontrarme en la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
It's a great honor for me to be in the city of Los Angeles.
Esta vez como presidente constitucional de la República de El Salvador.
Today as the constitutional president of the Salvadorian Republic.
Se trata de la ciudad más importante para nuestro país en la medida que se encuentra en ella la más grande concentración de salvadoreños viviendo en el exterior.
We're talking about the measure of the greatest city in which the greatest number of Salvadorians is found outside of the Salvadorian country.
Y por qué no decirlo, proyecta en convertirse en la ciudad con más salvadoreños, incluso con los salvadoreños que se encuentran en territorio nacional.
And why not state it? We are projecting that this city is going to count with the highest number of Salvadorian residents here in the city of Los Angeles outside of the city of Salvador, or the nation of Salvador.
Me atrevería a decir que hay más compatriotas salvadoreños y salvadoreñas viviendo, residiendo, trabajando acá en Los Ángeles que los que hay en la propia capital salvadoreña.
And I would dare say that the city of Los Angeles counts with the highest number of ladies and gentlemen who are Salvadorians living, working in the city of Los Angeles. More so, a higher number than in the capital of El Salvador.
Pero mi satisfacción por encontrarme acá no solo proviene del hecho de que me encuentro en casa porque estoy visitando una ciudad donde vengo a ver a mis compatriotas.
But the greatest satisfaction that I feel by being here is just not the reason that I feel at home. Why? Because I'm visiting my fellow countrymen in their own home.
Se trata también de una ciudad cuyas autoridades han recibido con amor, con solidaridad y le han permitido a nuestros compatriotas alcanzar el sueño de aspirar a una vida mejor que desafortunadamente no lo han podido concretar en su territorio natal.
And another reason why I feel so privileged and happy to be visiting this city is because of the love and solidarity that this city has provided to my countrymen. Why? Because they're able to reach their dream, the dream that they've aspired to and have not been able to acquire or reach in their own nation.
Somos quizás el único país de América Latina y me atrevería a decir del mundo que tiene a la tercera parte de su población viviendo fuera del territorio nacional.
And I would dare also say that perhaps we're the only nation in Latin America and perhaps in the world that has 1/3 of their population living outside of their own country.
Y la mayor parte de ella vive acá en los Estados Unidos, pero sobre todo aquí mismo en la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
And the majority of that 1/3 of the population living outside of El Salvador is not necessarily living in the rest of the nation of the United States, but instead living here in the city of Los Angeles.
Quiero, por lo tanto, en nombre del gobierno de El Salvador y del pueblo salvadoreño,
Therefore, now I would like to state on behalf of the nation of El Salvador and its countrymen,
agradecer los esfuerzos que realizan ustedes como miembros del Consejo de la Ciudad de Los Ángeles.
State my deepest appreciation for the efforts that you extend as members of the City Council of the City of Los Angeles,
para asegurar no solo que entre nuestros pueblos exista una fluida y sólida relación,
in making sure that between our nations we don't only have a fluid relationship between our nations,
sino que también para garantizarle a nuestros compatriotas que viven acá en Los Ángeles un mejor nivel de vida.
but also in guaranteeing our fellow countrymen who live here in the city of Los Angeles a better quality of life.
Estoy consciente de que el trabajo que que ustedes han desarrollado al frente de este Consejo le ha permitido a mis compatriotas salvadoreños y salvadoreñas gozar de un mejor nivel de vida, encontrar oportunidades de empleo y, lo más importante, que se les respete su dignidad y su identidad como salvadoreños.
I'm very aware that the work that you have done and accomplished in the past has provided and allowed my countrymen to have a better quality of life, find better jobs, and dignity here in this country and all through your efforts.
De modo que este recibimiento y las palabras que he escuchado de reconocimiento al liderazgo que pudiera tener como presidente de la República,
Therefore, this recognition and the words that I've heard as president, in recognizing me as president of the Republic of El Salvador,
lo tomo más como un reconocimiento al empuje, a la laboriosidad y al aporte que cada uno de los salvadoreños que viven en esta ciudad le ha dado a la ciudad de Los Ángeles, al estado de California, pero a todos los Estados Unidos.
I accept it and I am grateful for this recognition, and I accept it as an impulse, as work and as efforts that you have provided to my countrymen in not only the state of California and this nation, but particularly for the city of Los Angeles.
En esta ocasión he venido a animar a los compatriotas para que se reinscriban en el beneficio temporal migratorio que concede el TPS.
And most importantly, I'm here to encourage my fellow countrymen to register for TPS.
Y la visita a este concilio coincide también con el cierre del plazo para la reinscripción, que va a favorecer a cerca de 217,000 compatriotas.
And the closure of the deadline to re-register for this process of TPS is going to provide 217,000 countrymen the opportunity to stay here under TPS.
Además de que coincide con la celebración del Día del Trabajo, porque justo ayer que visité el consulado y que visité la sede de uno de los más importantes sindicatos acá en Los Ángeles y en todos los Estados Unidos, también en alguna medida la reinscripción de los compatriotas al TPS es un homenaje al respeto al trabajo, porque eso les va a dar garantía, seguridad a nuestros trabajadores, a nuestros compatriotas, de que no van a experimentar más la amenaza de la deportación.
It also coincides with Labor Day that was celebrated yesterday here in this country. I also visited the consulate's office and the main headquarters of a union. It's also going to provide a lot of the countrymen here in Los Angeles and the United States to be able to register and remain in this country, to be able to improve their quality of life and continue with their labor and work status here in the United States.
De nuevo, entonces, mis agradecimientos por la hospitalidad con la que me reciben a mí y a la comitiva que me acompaña.
Once again, my deepest gratitude for welcoming not just myself, but the honorable dignitaries that are joining me here today.
Por el profundo respeto y admiración que sé que ustedes tienen por la comunidad de salvadoreños que vive acá en Los Ángeles.
Thank you for your deep respect and admiration that I know you have for my countrymen who live here in your city of Los Angeles.
Y por permitir que con esta visita fortalezcamos más los lazos de unión, de confraternidad entre los salvadoreños y los estadounidenses.
And for allowing us to empower this link and relationship between both nations, Americans and also Salvadorians living here.
Muchas gracias entonces en nombre del pueblo salvadoreño.
Therefore, thank you very much on behalf of the Salvadorian nation.
Colleagues, I'd like to take this moment. It's a great honor to have the President of El Salvador here, Presidente Funes. And with that sense of honor and gratitude, I'd like to present to you a certificate of welcome presented to you, His Excellency Mauricio Flores, President of the Republic of El Salvador, on the occasion of your visit to Pueblo de Nuestra Señora La Reina de Los Ángeles. On behalf of City Council, we welcome you and hope that your visit is a productive one and that we continue to work together. I, for one, have been very honored to work with my brothers and sisters in Salvador and look forward to a great relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reyes, and muchas gracias al presidente por su presencia. Gracias.
Gracias.
We'll just take a moment, folks. We'll take about a 2-minute pause here, and we'll begin the other items called special just after that.
All right, Mr. Clerk. It's all right. Go ahead.
Next item called special was item 2. It's called special by Councilmember Parks, and there are cards on that, and an amending motion has also been circulated.
Number 2, would you like to hear from the speakers first, Mr. Parks? Yes. On number 2, Arnold Sachs and John Walsh. Sachs is first, then Mr. Walsh. Number 2.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs.
Ms. Hahn?
Yes, I was asked to see if it's possible to send item 8 forthwith to the mayor.
Number 8 forthwith?
We already voted on it.
Without objection, number 8
Thank you.
forthwith. That'll be the order. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Sachs, 2 minutes.
My clock was running, Mr.
Well, we're going to reset it for you.
Thank you.
There you go. We'll reset
Thank
it.
you. I'm just kind of curious with this annual cost, the special services fee adjustments. The city has an outstanding debt, and part of this outstanding debt, I'm sure, relates to services provided by the fire department that is not to be paid. Now, you're planning on adjusting the fees, raising them. So I'm wondering how much you expect this debt to increase. And I'm also kind of tickled by when you outsource the collection for the fire department debt for the services to the company. The spokesman for the company mentioned in the Times that with our system, by the time the patient comes back home from the hospital, his bill will be waiting in the mailbox, which means when he opens the mailbox and opens the bill, he'll have to call emergency services again to go back to the hospital for the heart attack he suffers and get a new bill, which will be the invention of a perpetual motion machine. Great work.
Mr. Walsh.
Blogging at Hollywood Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org. There's nothing in this LAFD cost of special service fee adjustments to tell us it's attached to the council file. So if you want to spend forever looking for it, you can. Whether it is up or down, I suspect it's up. I just want you to know that the rolling brownout still happens. We're not fully covered by emergency medical services anymore, and that a child died in a swimming pool in Bel Air because you would not fully fund, this council and this mayor would not fully fund firefighters. That child is dead. And come to our meetup at 9/11. Check it on our agenda, on our website. And you know what? I love this country. You know how much I love this country? Because if people like me in El Salvador get their throats slit and their mothers and fathers are killed in the street, that's why I love this country.
Mr. Parks, number 2.
Now, this is just a friendly amendment to number 2 on 2A. It's been circulated, and all we're doing is giving some instructions, asking the CAO and the CLA to work with the fire department and the fire commission so we get this information earlier in the budget process, and these fees can be effective July 1st as opposed to losing a couple of months of revenue.
Very well. There's no one on the queue with the amendment without opposition. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item, please.
Item 5, called special by Councilmember Rosendahl, and I understand there's an amendment in the works.
Mr. Rosendahl, we have some cards on this. Would you like to hear from the speakers first?
Cards would be fine, sure.
Arnold Sachs. There's 3 speakers on this one, number 5.
To paraphrase, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. To paraphrase you, Mr. Rosendahl, this is a no-brainer. At one time, you had a council chamber full of people when you had the living wage ordinance come before your vote at the airport. The living wage ordinance where workers would get a pay raise, but employers would get the option of offering health care. Well, we need to have the city consider the living wage ordinance. It works for the low-income people. It should work for medium and high-income people. Living wage ordinance. Remember, Mr. Alarcon, you said you were right when you first proposed this ordinance 10 years ago, and you were right this year. Be right again. Thank you.
Ankur Patel.
This report's going to come back and probably say the cost of healthcare has gone up. U.S. Chamber of Commerce has said small businesses. My friend's an actuary with Blue Cross, and he has to go through a lot of trouble. But when we come back with a report that says our costs have gone up, we shouldn't just throw our hands up and pay the bill. We have $30 billion in pension funds for the city, the sworn officers for the LADWP. That money can be leveraged to create an entire new system. Right? Instead of just paying money to health insurance providers, we have county hospitals. We can do so many creative things with this money, because when we talk about pension, we're talking about dignity in retirement, right? We want to care for these people. We want to provide them with health care is one of these main things, and we could do this in very creative ways. So when we get this report back and say that costs have gone up, we should look at this as an opportunity to use our funds, our pension funds, in a more creative way, and hopefully end up not only providing better care, but also using our money more efficiently. 1 minute.
To the San Fernando Valley, Donna Pearman.
Seymour vote doesn't count. Look at the same-sex marriages we didn't want and the marijuana collectors we did. Anyway, we didn't vote for this Obama health plan. We didn't vote against this health plan, so this is not right. Our city should not make a living wage ordinance. That's silly. I'm against Obama's health plan, and I'm against anything that will hurt the city employees. Anyway, the insured should not have to pay more for those who are uninsured. Obama misspends all our money that could have paid for the uninsured. I paid enough as it is myself. You shouldn't be hurting those who have a satisfactory system. Let's keep it the way it is for the ones who are insured. You can't have all those uninsured at a very low cost without someone spending more. It's hard when we don't know how many people are in this country, and we're paying for all the illegals. I refuse to pay more for those who came in here illegally. You say it won't go up. It's like believing in Peter Pan, the Tooth Fairy. I say bunko. I don't believe you. I don't believe in trying to come up with a whole new system. A lot of people already have a health care system that is satisfactory. The cities already has a system that's satisfactory. So I'm sorry for all the uninsured people that are in this country, but we have got to come up with a system that will just go to them. And if the country would stop misspending all the money and giving all our money, if Los Angeles stopped giving all our money to the CRA, which I forgot to bring up about the CRA, then we wouldn't have to have Obama try to come up with something for us. I don't see why Obama is going over to the city of Los Angeles. It should be a federal thing, not a city problem. So I'm against it. Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could we ask staff to come on up? Colleagues, obviously the two big key issues that we have to focus on as policymakers during this fiscal year is health care and pensions. How do we as a city continue our services and at the same time honor our relationships with our contracted people? The President put together a health care plan. Some people like it, some people don't. The bottom line is it was his effort to suggest that by 2014 or 2015 we'd have a better strategy than we presently have. The jury's still out on what he did and how the Congress went and so on and so forth, but we need to know the impact of health care concerns for us here in the city. And I'm taking this as a moment for us to take a deep breath and look at our present health care costs and how do we deal with it. Obviously, the ideal solution to all of this is both the private sector and the public sector. Health care, in my personal humble opinion, should be a responsibility of the federal government, and it should come out of our tax dollars and done right. We are the richest country on earth, and we don't have adequate health care for its people. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is how are we responding to the health care crisis? How are we interacting with the Obama plan? And I want to thank Miguel for this couple of pages you're going to now discuss with us. Again, colleagues, it's part of our educational experience on how do we tackle both health care and pensions as we deal with our next budget.
Good morning. What's being passed out is sort of three very basic PowerPoint on sort of putting the issue of health care within a larger context, at least for the city. And my colleagues from the Personnel Department could reference specifically the impact of health care reform, national health care reform on the city of Los Angeles. But if you all have this, it's a document that looks like this, and it shows a number of, has a number of different slides. The most significant is obviously the cost. Now, we're very fortunate in Los Angeles is that we have a very generous health care plan for our employees. Many of our employees, particularly those that belong to Kaiser, which is about half of the civilian workforce, are fortunate that they don't have to pay anything in premium costs for that health care. We also provide co-pays. Employees are required to pay a co-pay on a number of different fronts. The co-pay for health care for office visits was established in the late 90s and has been maintained the same since that time. But in a larger context, it's while we're being very generous in the healthcare plan that we provide, it has increased. And the context, of course, is that it's increased nationally. Every business, whether it's government or the private sector, has experienced an unprecedented increase in healthcare, and that's why there was such a large cry for healthcare reform. But if you look at the first chart in 2001-2, we contributed $103 million in healthcare costs for all of our civilian employees. And this fiscal year, or the last fiscal year that just passed rather, we contributed $218. On average, our healthcare costs have gone up about 10% a year. And so when you add up the entire increase in the last 10 years, it's gone up at 113% in our civilian workforce. And that could be mirrored as well for our sworn. The next chart shows you how it costs on a per-person basis. We are required in all of our contracts to pay the Kaiser family rate. And so as the Kaiser group rate increases on an annual basis, we are committed to paying 100% of that cost. If someone belongs to a different program outside of Kaiser, they pay for that difference. But here in the second chart, it shows from 1997, where the Kaiser rate was $350, and in 2011 is now at $1,152. That's clearly been an increase. It shows you how Kaiser and Blue Cross change from year to year as to which plan being the most expensive. And at this point, for this year, or for 2011, the most expensive plan will be Blue Cross. The next chart, the pie chart, shows you the breakdown in terms of our workforce, in terms of which plan each member's in. Now, obviously, the way healthcare is managed in the city is that we've established a joint labor management committee, which I sit on. Maggie Whalen, the head of personnel, also sits on, and we have three other representatives from labor, from management, and a counterpart of labor. And we meet and discuss these issues on a regular basis. In the next few days, we'll be discussing the issue of copay, and we'll be presenting to you a number of different options to pursue in that regard. But obviously, in the area of healthcare, we also discussed the impact of healthcare in that committee, the National Healthcare Reform Act. And overall, we're fortunate that in most cases, our system is at or is more generous than what was contemplated in the healthcare federal legislation. So I'll have my colleagues from the Personnel Department add anything more on that.
I would just add on the context of the motion, if there's any further instructions the council would want to give us clarifying that motion, that'd be fine, but we intend to work with the CAO's office and report back on the status of national health care reform and the specific impacts that we see, that we know of at present on the city costs and the city health plans.
If I could, Mr. President.
Mr. Rosenthal, well, your time's up. Mr. Alicon's on the queue.
Yeah, fine.
Mr. Alicon?
Council members, I stand in support of this motion. I think it's absolutely critical that we understand the impacts of the Obama administration's health care reform program, but I think that we need to do that in its full context. One of the primary purposes of the health care reform was to stimulate jobs in the health-related fields, which in theory should produce tax benefits to the city of Los Angeles. So as much as I was concerned about the language, I wasn't sure what it meant by cost and impacts to the city of Los Angeles in a very tight sense. Is that Mr. Smith related specifically to budgetary issues? Then I would like to offer an amendment to expand the review of the healthcare reform to consider all impacts on Los Angeles, because I truly believe that if we are going to get benefits out of the healthcare reform measure, that we have to drive those benefits. We have to be a partner to making sure that the people of Los Angeles are benefiting from that healthcare reform to the extent that we can in the context of the services that we do provide. So I would like to ask that the CLA join with the CAO and the Personnel Department, as well as the Mayor's Office, or request the Mayor's Office to participate in a complete analysis of the healthcare reform, the Federal Healthcare Reform Act, and to look at how we should take control of this issue for Los Angeles, not just in terms of its budgetary impact, but in terms of its further reaching impact, and especially how it provides services to the people of Los Angeles. So I offer that as a friendly amendment if the author would accept it.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'll accept it on one condition, that these need to be two separate policy discussions. They aren't joined at the hip. The overall arching issue of health care is, but there's two separate approaches.
I have no problem with
that. If we have them done separately, because I think it's important to understand that, but we also have to look at the budget impact, and they're totally different.
Well, then I would further amend to say that the budgetary impact should be referred to the Budget Committee, and the other impacts should be referred to the Jobs Committee.
Great.
Very well. Mr. Rosendahl.
Unless another colleague wants to say something, I would like a report back on the analysis of what the President's bill might have as an impact on us. But when we pick up the paper every morning and we see how Blue Shield is upping its price, everybody's upping it. The constituents were right. It's a no-brainer. The costs keep going through the roof. And the bigger question for us as a city, how do we handle the burden of rising health care costs going forward? We can no longer have the present plan in place and expect that plus pensions to drive our city. We know a third of our budget will be devoted to this, health care and to pensions, if we don't get something going. Can I suggest, what do we need to focus on as a council, as policymakers, going forward with the health care burden that obviously is real? Our commitment to our retirees is sacred, and we do have in my opinion, a terrible system in our country of how health care is delivered, who gets it. It's basically if you're super rich, you're okay. Everybody else is now struggling to figure out how to make it work. So what reflective points can we look at right now so that when we go into our budget discussions, I know that the engineers and architects have shown more appreciation of our situation. Could you take us a little bit in that you can't do in closed session, obviously, that might give us some appreciation as policymakers?
Sure. I think in broad strokes, we're doing everything we can on our end and being very aggressive in our negotiations with the providers to make sure that their costs are controlled. Our committee works very hard in that regard. This year, Blue Cross, for example, started off at 23% increase, and both on the labor and management side, we worked with the personnel department and our consultant to really push that down significantly, down to what we got it down to 8%, to 9%. And we were able to push down the Kaiser cost as well. But it's still 9%. It's closer to what the average increase has been on an annual basis, which has been again about 10%. The issue of healthcare, as people live longer, as technology advances, as we seek out more, obviously all of that is part of the increase in cost. And so the question that we have before us is, if we want to continue to maintain the same kind of healthcare system, we're going to have to share in that cost. You've already approved the agreement with one of the EA bargaining units, and you'll have the remainder tomorrow. We're fortunate that part of that commitment was for the employee to pay 5% of premium cost, not just on a one-time basis and an ongoing basis. And also beyond that, they also committed, knowing that this cost has increased, that they are committed to having that eventually or soon come up to 10% of the premium cost, as well as a commitment to share in the cost of any annual increases that incur. They've shown tremendous leadership in committing to that. They've also agreed to increase the copay from $10 to $20. And so that's one way of doing it. It's a significant portion. As I mentioned to you, if all employees were to contribute in a number of different increases in copay, still being fairly reasonable, it would generate $12 million for the city and reduce the cost. It helps reduce the premium cost as well by doing that. And so we'll be coming back with those kind of proposals, and that will be later this week. But beyond that, I think we need to continue to make the case that if we are committed to maintaining the same level of care, that there has to be some cost sharing between the employer and the city.
Ms. Hahn? Then Mr. Rosenwald, if you want to close. Ms. Hahn?
Thank you. Is it fair to say that we get a so-called better deal for the more employees that we have in the system? Does that also help to reduce the premium cost? The more, I mean, we get a better deal because of the volume?
Alex, you want to answer that?
Yes, because we're such a large employer, we are able to use our purchasing power to get relatively good premium rates.
I was just wondering, for instance, when we just recently raised the health care portion of our living wage ordinance, the first time in 10 years, which allowed, for instance, 5,000 workers at the airport to now be in a position to purchase health care. Was there ever a sense that maybe that would be something we could sort of offer them or include them in the city's policy. Thinking about all the truck drivers who are now calling on the Port of Los Angeles that are now being paid a decent wage, which also would allow them to purchase health care. Is that something we've ever looked at, including those or offering those employees part of our policy plan?
I'm not sure it's something that we've looked at recently, but our current plan is restricted to city employees who are meet two criteria, that they're members of the LACERS retirement program, and then also they work a minimum hours per pay period.
Could I ask for, as part of what you're coming back with, I think this is really about lowering the premium for everyone, and does it make sense to maybe branch out a little bit in terms of employees, for instance, at the airport, employees in and around the Port of Los Angeles, that it might make sense to get them on a health care plan, which could lower our premium and put us in a better position to leverage and negotiate with the providers.
Perhaps one of the...
just look at it.
Well, we could certainly do that, of course, in the context of, and also what the cost would be to do that. Since our subsidy is so significant for our employees, the only way it would work so it doesn't end up adding to our costs is by increasing the amount of share that employee has to pay. But we could certainly look at it as an option.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Rosenthal to close.
Yes, again, thank you, Mr. President. You were alluding to 10%. I just want to, what are we paying now for health care?
It was...
So, do you mean in terms of our annual premium or per employee?
Per employee.
Per employee on
Percentage.
average.
What is it?
On average, the average is $800.
No. What percent?
We cover approximately 99% of the health care costs.
If an employee paid 10% toward health care, what kind of an impact will that have on our budget? 10%. What are we paying now? 2%? 1%?
Well, if you're in Kaiser, you don't pay anything.
Yeah, I understand that. If you're not in Kaiser.
So, if you choose not to be in Kaiser, then you pay. We're committed to pay up to the family Kaiser rate, and so whatever that is on an annual basis, our MOU specifically say that we will pay it. What we're asking is a 10% of premium, which includes that. If every employee were to pay 5%, what was that number? You're looking it up?
Yes.
Okay.
If employees paid approximately 10% of the premium costs, that would be about $20 million worth of savings, $23 million worth of savings.
And that's if we did 10%.
That's an approximate number, yes.
Would that include people who are part of the Kaiser program?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if every employee paid 10%, it would save us like $22 million.
And that would be for civilians, not...
That would be for civilians. And do we know anything about SWORM?
We don't have that figure.
Well, I want that data. I want the data on every employee in the city, what percentage we as employees put toward our health plan, period. And then what do we need to do to deal with the crisis we're in terms of the budget? If it's 10% for all employees, sworn or not, then it's 10%. If it's 5% or 8% or 15%, whatever it is, we need to have a chart as to the responsibilities we assume ourselves with our health care versus the taxpayer. It's as simple as that. The taxpayer can't afford it anymore. And if our federal government doesn't show real leadership on health care, I'm dubious about that, we're still going to be burdened with it. But we must take responsibilities ourselves for our health. We can no longer subsidize it at the expense of closing parks and libraries. I mean, are we clear about this?
Yes. And that's consistent with your direction. But we'll present, in the next few days, we'll present the breakdown.
The more options we have as policymakers and the less stressful of moments, which is right now, the healthier we'll be in making our decisions that work. Because frankly, I know, I have Blue Shield, Blue Cross preferred. And my doctors opt out of the program, so they take what they can get and then they send me another bill on top of it. So the system's broken. Don't get me wrong, it's broken. And the question is, how much is the burden on the taxpayers versus a burden on ourselves as employees? So if you can give us a breakdown and all that, that'll help us make the decisions we need to make. Thank you very much.
Now, Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Cardenas?
I just want to make it clear for the people who are hearing your comments, Miguel. We're paying X amount of health insurance, et cetera. Obama or Washington has made a change in this country about how health care is going to be handled in every community throughout the country, including Los Angeles. But I just want to make sure it's very clear, when you say we, you're not talking about you. You're talking about the policymakers of the city of Los Angeles have set up a system that we currently have. For example, you were just commenting about what percentage do we pay of a employee's health care. For example, if they're Kaiser, we pay the whole thing, correct? That's correct. And then if they're not Kaiser, how much do we pay? It depends on what health care plan that they have. Roughly, about 90+%?
Well,
across the board?
Roughly overall, the city pays 98% of the costs for health care
For all city employees.
for civilians.
Now, that isn't a decision of the employees. That was a policy decision that was made by the city council and ratified by the mayor over time?
That's correct, and through labor contracts and
through labor contracts, et cetera. So I just want to make it very clear that what you're talking about isn't something that Miguel or the previous CAO has implemented. That is strictly a policy decision, and it is something that we have chosen to do as a city, and that's the level of relationship that we have when it comes to covering healthcare costs that the city of Los Angeles has with its employees across the board, and that is a policy decision, right?
That's correct.
And when it's a policy decision, who makes those decisions?
Policymakers.
Who's a policymaker?
Yourself and your colleagues and the mayor.
Council members, the mayor in some cases, correct?
That's right.
But without question, the city council.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And that matter is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Next item, please.
Item 6, called special by Councilmember Cardenas.
Number 6.
We permeate. Yep. Number 6?
Arnold Sachs.
Number 6.
Arnold Sachs passes. Thank you. Ankur Patel.
I think the website should be called rfp.lacity.org. You know, all the archives and every other RFP proposal should be up there. What's interesting, though, is such a provision would request RFP respondents to disclose if they have sued the city in the last 24 to 36 months. Right? That means that we've probably given projects to people who sued us pretty recently. We should be on top of that, guys. And just because we ask them to disclose it, that has to be put into our... like the city attorney should be working on that kind of stuff, not asking them to provide that information to us. Did you sue us? That's kind of a funny question to ask, isn't it? That should be part of our processes when we issue RFPs.
Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. Again, for those people who are watching, that's an interesting comment, Mr. Patel, but the fact of the matter is, on any RFP process, if it's run right, if you ask a respondent a question and they lie, say they have sued us in the last 24 or in the last 36 months, and they say they haven't, and in the process we find out that they lied, then that in and of itself should disqualify that respondent. So it's not that simple. The fact that we have certain questions or requirements of respondents means that they better not lie, and if they're caught lying, then that in and of itself could throw them out as an irresponsible bidder, which means that they can't compete for that bid. But that's a good point, but I just want to clarify for the viewers that it's not that cynical. It is, in fact, once we ask that of a respondent and it's required for them to answer honestly and they lie, then that bid should be deemed no good. Now, the reason why I called this special, unfortunately, Ms. Perry's not here, and it's seconded by Councilmember Zine. I'm noticing that this motion, I agree with it, and it makes sense. However, it's missing the other half. The other half that's missing here is that I think that if
we put out an RFP and we're asking people to disclose whether or not they sued us, we should know the relationship of our litigation with them if we've sued them. Because I think if we have sued somebody, I think that we're probably going to be a little bit more careful about suing somebody than perhaps them suing us. And in addition to that, I have spoken to many vendors who do business with municipalities, for example, or with government, and government is not perfect. Government sometimes takes 30, 60, 90, 100 days, a year or 2 years to finish paying off somebody who actually performed, and we haven't been honest about proving whether or not they performed the work or not, yet we're still holding checks 90 days, 180 days, 360 days on vendors, and we're killing them. And then unfortunately, sometimes under those circumstances, they have to sue us. And very reluctantly, because they do want to bid in the future. And they don't want the City Hall staff to say, I remember you, you made my life miserable. You sued us. Although that staff is forgetting that we owed them money for a year or two and they were forced to sue us because there was really no legal reason for us to hold that money, yet we are at the top of that food chain with a lot of vendors, which means that we can get them upset, we can not pay them on time, we can make them go through all kinds of red tape, and then the smaller company you are, the harder it is for you to hold out and wait 6 months, wait a year to get paid. It kills you as a small business. And under those circumstances, the City of Los Angeles has been sued by past vendors, current vendors, and vendors who still, I don't know why, still want to do business with the City of Los Angeles, even though we treat them very badly sometimes. So the reason why I called this special, I'm not on the Budget Committee, but I do chair the General Services Committee, where a lot of the city RFPs are done through General Services, and also that committee that I chair has to do with government relations as well. And I was hoping that we could have that kind of dialogue on this particular matter. And also, I'm just letting you know, colleagues, that I would like to insert that it be both ways. That when we're dealing with RFPs, that during that RFP process, the vendors disclose to us whether or not we have sued them or whether or not they have sued us over a certain period of time as we require on that particular RFP. And then on top of that, that we do our due diligence to double check their answers and also to see if we sued them. And in addition to that, I do not believe that on the surface, just because a potential vendor in an RFP process has sued us, that means that they are a bad vendor. But unfortunately, the way this is written right now, it's very simple. Some people could interpret, well, if they'd sued us, then they're bad. And we need to look at them negatively and perhaps affect their ability to do business with us on this particular project or this particular RFP. So I agree with this motion. I think this motion in its current form doesn't cover enough if we're going to go down this road and require that kind of disclosure. And I would like it to go to my committee so that we can have that policy discussion as well.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second. And Mr. Alarcon is our next speaker.
Oh, me? Oh, I'm sorry.
As in Richard Alarcon.
I couldn't hear you through the beard. I'm sorry.
Now you know how we feel whenever you speak.
And let me just say thank you to Mr. Reyes for donating his hair to your face. I think it's a wonderful gesture. Both of you look better, by the way. Substance over here. Thank you. I'm trying to figure out which way that goes, but I have the same concerns that Mr. Cardenas has just expressed. What is the motivation for this motion? What is the purpose for this motion? It is not clearly stated, and it could be inferred that it is essentially a threat, that if you sue the City of Los Angeles, you're not going to get a contract. It doesn't say that, but it could be interpreted that way because we have not explained why we need this information in the contracting process. So I absolutely believe that before we pass a motion like this, we need to explain why we need that information as it relates to the provision of services and contracts that we would ask of the various vendors and providers of service. I think we also need a legal analysis of this. In what exactly are we putting ourselves in jeopardy? So, for example, if a company that is suing the city of Los Angeles then is applying for a contract with the city, and then they get eliminated, then could they not say that the reason they were eliminated was because of because they had to disclose that they were suing the city of Los Angeles, and that tarnished the process? So I have a real concern about that, and again, I think before we pass this motion, we need to have a full explanation of why we need that information to ensure that it has nothing to do with the quality of the selection process. Pardon me? Yeah, I was hoping that Ms. Perry could be here, and she I believe she's an attorney, right? So, well, she graduated from law school, so she at least knows the law to some extent, and I know that the language of this motion did include a statement that while everybody's entitled to their day in court, essentially, that we nevertheless want this information. I would just like her to answer why we need this information, and I'm not getting a clear picture on that. But Mr. Cardenas, I believe, is correct. I don't know your committee or some other committee, but I think this is not ready for prime time yet.
And colleagues, it was suggested by Ms. Perry's staff, it was her motion, she will be here tomorrow if we want to maybe continue till tomorrow. Is that all right with folks? Okay. We have Mr. Parks, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Cardenas. Can we, okay. Mr. Rosendahl, is that all right if we continue till tomorrow then? All right. Without objection, we'll continue this one day. Next item, please.
Item 9, called special for cards.
All righty. Sean Murphy on item number 9.
We need to hire more police, not put a hiring freeze. Thank you.
John Walsh is our next speaker. Can I predict a weed pun coming, Mr. Walsh?
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Meet up this Saturday, 9/11. Check it out. Weed whacking. We need more weed whacking. We need to prevent forest fires. We need Smokey the Bear. This is an important issue. Very important issue. And I'd like to finish my 1-minute meeting by saying that our Eric Garcetti has sworn not to shave his beard till Jerry Brown is elected governor.
Excuse me, he's not talking about the item.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney, and thank you, Mr. Walsh. That will close our public comment. Mr. Cardenas on this?
I'm feel just fine about holding this over till tomorrow, expecting that Ms. Perry is going to be here. That's fine.
We actually already continued. I'm sorry.
Continue. Oh, you already did that?
Yeah, we moved on to the next item. But if you
I
want to
thought
say
they were
something-
speaking on that item still. Okay.
Do you want to? I'm sorry. I thought everybody was okay. Do you want us to reconsider so you can say something?
Point of personal privilege?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
The reason why I didn't make that recommendation, because I didn't feel that my motion was negative, because I said I do support it, but I just wanted to work on it more. Thank you.
Thank you. No members wish to speak on the weed and brush abatement. We'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item. I know the beer throws you off.
Item 11, called special by Councilmember Hahn, and there are cards on that.
All right, item 11. Why don't we take the card first? Arnold Sachs is gone, and Ankur Patel, and he'll be followed by John Walsh.
So the CRA is going to buy city property for $1 million? I mean, affordable housing, again, what are we investing in, right? This is an investment of city money into affordable housing. This is the tenants of that specific building might be benefited. But in general, it's just subsidizing a few people's benefit at the cost of taxpayer money. I don't understand why these projects continue to happen, probably because they make a lot of deals with developers. I mean, the landlords obviously are against this because it drives down what they're making, but because the CRA is going to take this over, the profit just gets put on a merry-go-round, goes in a circle, and ends up in I don't know whose pocket. Anyway, these things are just going to continue to pass, aren't they? Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh is next. Okay, he passes on this. Please prepare the roll. Oh, sorry, Ms. Hahn, you called special.
I don't want to use my... Thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, what I'd like to do is have a verbal motion here that we hold this over or send it back to the committee. Let's send it back to the committee, and I would like to request that we take a look at the city declaring that surplus property instead of selling it to CRA for $1 million. I know Bernard's looking at me. It's probably already been closing some kind of a budget gap, but Wilmington has very little money in its CRA account, and this is going to be used for Habitat for Humanity homes, affordable housing, which I know in the past we have donated property for Habitat for Humanity to build affordable housing. So I don't know if that was looked at, but if I could request that we just take a look and see what the feasibility of declaring that surplus property as opposed to selling it to CRA, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That is before us. Please prepare a roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Yes, item 17, called special by Councilmember Weezer. There are cards on that, and I believe there was an amendment in the works.
Okay, Mr. Walsh on 17. You have 1 minute left, sir.
John Walsh, blogging in Hollywood Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org. 1.5 million visitors the first 6 months. Emailing at hollywooddems@gmail.com. This concerns, it's so noisy over here. Can you have Janice quiet? I can hardly hear myself. You can hear me well? Okay. hollywoodhighlands.org for silence. This has to do with bike safety. And we know the number one bike safety advocate in probably in the world is our mayor after his accident. And maybe when we close for the street for the bikeway event, maybe someone in this city can tell me the name of the phantom cab driver who was blamed on it. Since we have no proof there ever was a cab driver, everything the mayor said about bicycles is a lie.
Thank you. Just as a note on this, which Mr. Weezer, I've introduced Ciclavia, which is going to be held on Sunday, October 10th. We do have information on that now. The flyers are available, and if you go to the website at ciclavia.org, that's ciclavia.org, the map of the route which we're going to close down for bicycles and pedestrians, families, and dogs, and everything else will be a great day, and we appreciate everyone's work on that. Mr. Weezer?
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to make an amendment. The therefore move clause, the reference should be to the I-101, not the I-110.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, without objection, we'll accept that. It's friendly. That amendment. Did we get that in, Mr. Weezer? Was there something else to clarify? Are you done, Mr. Weezer, with that? Or are you trying to clarify something?
Well, I was asked to make that amendment, but you know what? Looking at the map here, that may not make sense, so...
Sorry, you want to say, what was the clarification one more time?
Can we just hold this till tomorrow, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Without objection, we'll continue that one day. We'll close the public hearing on that. And next order of business.
President, do you wish to reconsider item 19?
Yes, please. Let's open the roll on 19. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And if we can continue that for 1 month, please.
That would be October 8th.
October 8th without objection. Thank you. All right.
And, Mr. President, there was a card on item 24, but I believe Mr. Sachs has left, so that item does not need to be reconsidered at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Perry requests to be excused to arrive at 11:30 on October 20th for city business. That meets council policy.
She's excused.
Councilmember Rosendahl requests to be excused to leave at noon on September 29th for city business. That meets council policy.
All right, he is excused.
Councilmember LaRange requests to be excused Friday, October 1st for city business. That meets council policy.
And he is excused.
And Councilmember Cardenas requests to be excused Friday, October 15th for city business. That also meets council policy.
Okay, he is excused, and we'll also move his excuse time up next Tuesday from 1 to 12 without objection.
That does clear the desk.
Okay. Any announcements, colleagues? Announcements, again, just to reiterate, tonight we will have, in Mr. Rosendahl's district, joint meeting of Rules and Elections and Energy and Environment Committee on Ratepayer Advocate, which will be, again, this evening at 6 p.m., and that will be at the Mar Vista Rec Center, 11430 Woodbine Avenue in Los Angeles. We'll be joining with the community there and hearing your thoughts on Ratepayer Advocate. Other announcements? If we have no other announcements, if I could ask everybody to please rise for adjourning motions. And Ms. Hahn, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Colleagues, I would like us to adjourn today in the honor of Lomita City Council member Tim King, who passed away recently in August at the age of only 60. Tim was a native of South Bay who served on the Lomita City Council for 8 years and was just reelected to a third term in November. Many of you probably remember Tim King. He served for more than 20 years in LAPD. He retired in 1995 as the captain of the Harbor Division, where I got to know him very well. And during his police career, he was in charge of security at 2 venues during the successful 1984 Summer Olympics. He also implemented the Hollywood Division bike detail, established the 312 work plan, and started the crisis response team. While at the Harbor Division, Tim King was instrumental in the creation of the SPIN Network, a collaborative between school and law enforcement officials, which still meets to this day. He began his career in law enforcement as a cadet with the Gardena Police Department, and it was during that time that he met his wife, Valerie, who was then a cashier at Boys Market in Hawthorne. They just celebrated their 35th wedding anniversary. He's survived by Valerie, his mother, Janie, and brothers David, John, and Greg King. Tim had a great career. He was a great humanitarian, and I worked with him on a lot of issues in the harbor area, and I was very pleased when he went on to serve in another form of public service on the City Council and Lomita, and he will truly be remembered, and many will feel like he left us way too early.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Koretz.
60.
Yes, I'd like to move that we adjourn today in memory of Ken Gersten, who died last week from an accident at age 55. Kenny was a San Fernando Valley business and civic leader that many of us know. And among his many achievements, he served as president of the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, board chair of the Greater San Fernando Valley Chamber of Commerce, in leadership roles with LA Family Housing, Sherman Oaks Hospital, American Diabetes Association, and numerous other groups, as well as being just an all-around nice guy who everybody loved, who had a chance to know him. The Valley's lost a real star, a real doer, and a good friend. And we offer our condolences to Kenny's wife, Kimberly, his son, Lee, his daughter, Emily, his parents, Stanley and Sandra, and brothers, Brian and Randy, and all the residents of the San Fernando Valley. The family invites us to join them in a celebration of his life tonight, September 7th, from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Beverly Garland Hotel in North Hollywood. And may he rest in peace.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Eloquent.
I would also like to
Hold on 1 second. On this one, Mr. Hamilton, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'm shocked to learn of Ken Gersten's passing. He was an activist in the San Fernando Valley for many, many years. Was a member of the Rotary in Van Nuys when I was a member of the Rotary some 20 years ago. Yes, Mr. Smith, I was a member of the Rotary. Ken was one of those people who always did a little extra to give back to the community in the best way that he could. But interestingly, his cousin, Richard, was my coach at Fernangeles Elementary when I was 7 years old, and I lied about my age and played on a championship baseball team at 7 years old. Yes, I was 7. But Ken was also an advocate for the San Fernando Valley. He actually, I believe, he ran for city council under the separation issue of the San Fernando Valley, and even though he loved the San Fernando Valley, he also loved Los Angeles, and he owned that coin company on the corner of Burbank and Sepulveda. Huh? Continental Coin Company. So everybody's seen it who's been on Burbank. But he also was a little-known fact about him. He had Tourette's syndrome, and he was challenged each and every moment to mask it. But he was very effective in all that he did and accomplished. And given the fact that he struggled with Tourette's, it is even more of a statement to what a tremendous person he was. I'm very saddened to hear of his loss, and I know that many people who have been touched by Ken Gersten will be saddened as well.
Mr. Zion, I think, wanted to add something.
Was contacted by Kimberly, Ken's wife. I've known Ken for about 30 years. When I was with the police department, Continental Coin was a favorite location for potential robbers, so they liked when the officers in uniform showed up, and Ken became a very good friend. We rode Harleys together. Kimberly, his wife, bought a Harley, and we had a lot of fun on motorcycles. But a lot of memories, and I spoke to Kimberly last evening, asked me to speak at his memorial, the life of Ken, this afternoon. But there are just so many incredible stories about Ken Gersten and what he's done for the people of the San Fernando Valley. When I first ran for office, he was my finance chair, so we go so far back. But I had the opportunity to go to the hospital and visit him. He was in a coma for 9 days, and what happened is he fell over. He had a big meeting with Nestle Corporation with his water product, and the next morning was the meeting. He was in Downey. He stood up, he fell over, hit his head on a table, and from that he never regained consciousness. He was in a coma, transferred to Kaiser Woodland Hills, where I visited. His family was there with him at the time of his passing, but he never regained consciousness from that time. And to see Ken lying in that bed with the tubes hooked up and all the machines blank, it was a very, very sad time. But as they say, he's at a better place with peace and tranquility, and his lovely wife and son, mom and dad, his daughter, were all there with him by his side, his brothers, to bid a farewell to Kenny. But for 9 days he was in a coma and never regained consciousness, so may he rest in peace.
Thank you. Mr. Kretz, for another journey motion. We'll add all members to that.
Yes, I'd also like to adjourn in memory of one of our greatest political wits and social commentators about politics, Paul Conrad, who died in his home of natural causes at age 86. He was, of course, a tremendous editorial cartoonist, winner of 3 Pulitzer Prizes. And more than that, he was the shrewd and unsparing conscience of our times during an era of extraordinary contentiousness. Meant a lot to me growing up in the 60s and 70s as I was becoming increasingly politically active. And we all read the newspapers for news, but many of us read Paul Conrad's cartoon to find the real truth. We got to laugh, but it also was a laugh sometimes of shocked recognition. certainly of the most aggressive commentary that one could find probably in any publication, whether he was attacking all the presidents of his time, Nixon, Reagan, Clinton, Bush Sr., or some of our local mayors. If you go back a ways, he was sued by Sam Yorty for one of his columns, and he took on just about everybody. His cartoons were potent scalpels, uncovering a number of things in public matters. He didn't suffer hypocrites or fools or reckless mistakes very gently, as we all know. He was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 1924. He had two brothers, one of them an identical twin. His father worked for the railroad but encouraged his sons to draw, and that obviously led to his career. He skipped high school graduation with his twin brother, ran off to Alaska to work on the Alaska-Canadian Highway. He enlisted in World War II and served in the invasions of Guam and Okinawa. When he came back afterwards, he attended Ohio State University and then the University of Iowa and began drawing cartoons for his college paper. And this led him to being hired by the Denver Post, where he mastered the art of editorial cartooning over the course of 14 years, and also married the newspaper Society writer, his wife, Kay King. In the early 60s, the LA Times hired him as part of an effort to upgrade the paper. This was his sort of glory years as his career. And of course, as I said, he spared no one from presidents to a lot of LA city government and the LAPD and many other institutions. And I have a couple of his toughest critiques with me with original artwork, as does Mr. Krikorian. Not necessarily ones that I agree with everyone, but they're still pretty notable. There's one that goes after Bush Sr., one that attacks the LAPD, and one the NRA, and these particularly three pieces of original artwork. He's survived by his wife Kay, his sons Jamie and David, his daughters Carol and Libby, and a granddaughter. I should also note that when he left the Times and retired in 1993, he continued in syndication and also painted and sculpted for a number of years. And he will be sorely missed by fans the world over.
Thank you. Yeah. Second from Ms. Hahn. Mr. Parks.
I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Leroy A. Beavers Jr., was born June 3rd, 1923, recently passed away at Cedars-Sinai Hospital after a long battle with cancer. Leroy hailed from a family of distinguished background in the insurance business. His uncle, George Beavers Jr., was the founding member and chairman of the board of Golden State Life Insurance, which served the African-American community in Los Angeles. Leroy followed in his uncle's footsteps, working at Golden State until 1963, when the Equitable Life Assurance Society of the United States recruited him to their Beverly Hills branch. As Equitable's first African-American agent in the western U.S., Leroy was dubbed by some publications as the Jackie Robinson of insurance for breaking the color barrier within the insurance industry. In May 1963, he was appointed district manager at Equitable's Century City branch, where he earned Equitable's National Cities Award in 66, 67, and 68. In June 68, just 5 short years after joining the company, he was rewarded for his impressive success when they named him the agency manager of Century City office. This appointment made him the first African-American agency manager in Equitable's firm and amongst the top 10 insurance companies in the U.S. He was a role model for African-Americans aspiring to a career in the insurance industry. Black Enterprise, Ebony Magazine featured him as an example of the opportunities that exist for their readers. As a member of Equitable Black Advisory Council, which advised the chairman and CEO on affirmative action, he helped to pave the way for African-Americans and other minorities to pursue a career at Equitable, making it a leading Fortune 500 company and providing opportunities for minorities. He also was an active member of his community and involved in many local and national organizations, including the 100 Black Men of Los Angeles, the Urban League, the NAACP, the Cosmos, the East Side Boys, and the 28th Street YMCA Raggers. He's a product of the LA City Unified School System, a graduate of Jefferson High School. Also, he was a California State Seal Bearer Scholar while attending Jefferson, and was also lettered in football. After graduation, he attended the University of California, Berkeley, on a full academic scholarship where he played football and boxed. He joined the Army Air Corps in World War II, served as a radio operator on a medium-sized bomber and as a drill instructor. A lifetime resident of Los Angeles, he's a member of the Los Angeles City Fire Department prior to going into the insurance business. He was a man greatly respected, admired by a host of relatives, friends, business associates throughout the U.S., known as a motivator and a leader in his community. He survived by his wife, Leela, his children, Deborah, Leroy III, Kimberly, and George, and a host of family members. His funeral service will be held Thursday, September the 9th at Forest Lawn Memorial in Glendale, and the Church of Recession, and the repast will be at Beverly Hills Country Club on Motor. Many of you may remember Debbie Beavers, who was my field deputy chief of operations. This is her father, and she put in over 30 years in the city of Los Angeles. And in his younger days in insurance, in fact, my dad actually worked with him at Golden State for about 10 minutes before he went into law enforcement. So,
Thank you, Mr. Zahn.
I have two adjourning motions. Richard Clyde Reed passed away August 20th. Valley resident all his life, attended North Hollywood High School, graduated in 1944. Upon graduation, joined the United States Navy, where he spent most of the time in the Philippines during World War II. Married Lila Myers in 46, celebrated the 63rd anniversary last November. Began his city career as chairman in the survey division in July 1946, worked his way through the ranks as inspector in the Bureau of Contract Administration, Department of Public Works, retired after 37 years of service. Devoted member of Reseda Masonic Lodge number 666, where he served as worshipful master from 1970 to 71. District inspector for 5 years, served as secretary for 15 years with the Reseda Masonic Lodge. President of the High 12 International, member of the Scottish Rite Van Nuys Order of the Eastern Star. Music played a large part in Richard's life, played the clarinet and saxophone, loved big band music, traveled far and near to attend Dixieland festivals, enjoyed meeting with World War II buddies and high school friends regularly at the 94th Aero Squadron restaurant. Passed away August 20th in Reseda, surrounded by his family and friends. He was 84 years of age, survived by his beloved wife, Lila, sister Shirley, daughters Terry, Shiley, Susan, and Linda, son-in-law Larry, 9 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, and many lifelong friends. May he rest in peace. Richard Clyde Reed. And my second adjourning motion is for Officer Derek David Morton, passed away August 14th, born in Ridgecrest, California. During several of his elementary and junior high years, member of the Pikes Boys competition gymnastics team at the Gymnastics Unlimited, participated for 4 years, each in cross country and track. During high school, earned his Eagle Scout Award with Bronze Palm from the Boy Scouts of America. Attended Whittier College, where he graduated. Major was physical education. Returned to Valencia after college graduation, taught water polo for the city of Santa Clarita, worked as physical trainer and as a motion capture performer and editor of the Foundation Image. Soon realized his heart's desire was to be a policeman. In 2002, graduated the class of 153 from the Orange County Sheriff's Academy, receiving the Communications Award. Immediately following graduation, sworn into the Santa Monica Police Department as an officer. He loved his job. The great members of Extraordinary Police Department became his second family. A year before his diagnosis, he was advanced to Vice and Narcotics Squad with the Santa Monica Police Department. Following surgery and the beginning of chemotherapy, he returned to work for about 9 months. Such was his love for his job and his colleagues. Through his post-college years, remained physically active, donating many hours to the Santa Clarita Valley Food Pantry for the express purpose of providing top-quality first aid kits for the food pantry clients. He passed away August 14th after a 2-year battle with colon cancer. Surrounded by his loving family and friends by his side for his final journey, survived by his parents, Carol and Jim Morton of Valencia, older brother, Dr. Keith, and Annie Morton, brother, Troy Morton. May he rest in peace. Santa Monica Police Officer Derek David Morton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zion. And finally, folks ask that we adjourn in memory of a good friend and neighbor, Michael Slater, who passed away this past week. My wife and I knew him for more than a decade. We met him when we had a random referral for a real estate agent, and we bought our first house with him, and he quickly became a dear friend of ours. We both later on moved, and we wound up living a block away from each other. He was well known in the Silver Lake and Echo Park, Los Feliz communities. Michael Slater is his name. He had extensive experience with historical homes, homes with character. He had listed and sold properties on the National Registry of Homes. He was very active in Silver Lake, where he lived for over 17 years, and then the past 6 or 7 in Echo Park. He belonged to the Committee to Save Silver Lake's Reservoirs, the Silver Lake Chamber of Commerce, and the Silver Lake Improvement Association, and he passed away after a long battle with cancer. Memorial service will be this Sunday, September 11th at 2:30 p.m. at All Saints Church in Pasadena. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations be made to the American Cancer Society or the MA Center at www.amma.org. Michael will certainly be missed in the neighborhood and throughout Los Angeles. May he rest in peace. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.